this kind of behavior into schools, where school is supposed to be a safe space, a safe haven for our children. That was not no training, it was trauma to the children of Barbados, our future leaders, our future doctors, politicians, teachers. It was trauma. And this was allowed to happen under the Ministry of Education, under this current BLP administration. And once again, instead of accountability, Bajors was given excuses after excuses and deflections after deflections. We were told it was well-intended. We were told it was only a misunderstanding. And it was to build preparedness for the children. But preparedness does not involve terrorizing our children of Barbados. This incident revealed a government that is out of touch, a government that is careless, and a government that is unfit to manage the safety of our children. And Springer was not a one-off error. It was a result of a system where decision-making is reckless, communication is poor, and accountability is absent. Now, we got this same government that could not properly prepare the school term, cannot communicate exam changes early, and cannot maintain school infrastructure. It's the same government that allowed fear to be introduced into our learning environment. This happens because of lack of good leadership. And while I'm speaking about emotional well-being of our children, I just want to touch on the common entrance for a little bit. Every year, nearly 4 out of 10 children are told that they failed the 11+ exam. And this government have no clear alternatives. The government have no clear vocational expansion programs. There's no serious technical pathways for our children. Instead, they have our parents scrambling. They have children internalizing shame when they fail these exams. And teachers are left to manage the broken confidence of our children of Barbados. A government that traumatized the children of Springer and labeled the children at the common entrance exam have no moral authority to speak about education reform. And today I'm bringing up these things so it can be fresh in your minds as we head towards the polls on February 11th. So you, the people of Barbados, can judge for yourself and see if this government is performing well or if they're just throwing up smoke and mirrors in our face and think that we are foolish. I want to continue down the list. We got a government that is shrouded in secrecy. Where is the transparency of this current BLP administration? And democracy dies on the darkness. And right now there's a dark cloud of secrecy that hangs over this government's every move. Time after time again, the BLP regime has operated behind closed doors, refusing to be upfront with the people of Barbados. Consider how major decisions have been made with virtually no public consultation or disclosure. We hear announcements after the fact. We see money getting spent without explanation. We ain't seeing no transparency, and transparency seems to be just a buzzword in this government speech. But when we look at the practice, there's no transparency in their governance. And I want to give one example to the people of Barbados tonight. The long-promised integrity in public life legislation. This very law was supposed to hold politicians accountable, require them to declare their assets, and punish corruption. But the BLP sweep into power in 2018 and the lowly vote that, we can pass this bill. As we step in, we can pass this bill. But how long we had to wait before them pass this bill? We had to wait 5 whole years until 2023 before they could pass this integrity bill. And guess what? Even although they pass it, they still have not brought it into force. As of now, the bill still stands there dormant. It's not actually implemented. And the government continues to pat themselves on the back to think that they bring this landmark achievement. But a law that isn't operational is nothing but paper promises, Barbados. And why? Why after 8 years in power, they are still dragging their feet on one reform that could force transparency on them? Perhaps they prefer darkness, something like the darkness that happened the other day with the fellas in George Street when the light shut off. Poor fellas. But perhaps the BLP never really intended to police themselves. They probably just was talking and talking, once again, empty promises to the people of Barbados. And then coming down the list, I want to talk a little bit about Carrie Festa. Carrie Festa was host last year, and it's a wonderful cultural festival, and nobody is disputing that we should celebrate Caribbean excellence. But the arrogance of this government to think that they can just take up our money and spend without accountability is crazy. They built an entire Carrie Festa village down the road, and it was costly, and it's only a temporary structure. And they rushed construction in last minute, and they paid top dollar for these things. But people start to ask, what is the price tag? And like this government normally do, they respond, "That ain't your business. We can probably tell you later when we feel like." In fact, the Prime Minister turned around and said that it can get released after they pay all the vendors. Now, the other day, I see a man stand up on a platform and talk about late payment from the government. And he said, people want the money. And even if we got to shave off a little bit, we can give them the money. Now, when we work for a particular set of money that we contracted for, we want our money. How you mean you can shave off the money and give us? So we want to know how much was spent on Carrie Festa. And our president keep asking this question, and we can ask it and ask it and ask it till we get the answers. And how about when we look at Kensington Oval? Once again, no accountability. The government announced that it borrowed a whopping $50 million to redevelop Kensington Oval ahead of hosting the 2024 ICC Cricket World Cup. And there was an outcry from the people of Barbados asking how much and exactly for what. And like the government normally do, the rollback government, the backpedal and say, half of it going to the Oval, the other half going to cricket programs. Then we hear later that only $30 million was spent. And we hear that they still need more. In 2024, they say that, we need another 5 to 9 million on top of what we already spent. Over $40 million has been spent in total, but something strange about these numbers, because they say at first 50 million, then 25 million, then 39 million, then 40 million. It's like they're just making up these things as they go. Because I think Bajans are full of this red Kool-Aid and we foolish. But tonight we opening our eyes, Barbados, and they can't make us a fool anymore. And I know I don't got much time out here. And I can go on and on and on all night about the failures of this current administration. Because Barbados, we are fed up. And we cannot continue to let this government rub what party shot at in our face and we call it flowers and perfume. I just want to name a few more failures before I go, just to paint a vivid picture. The lack of transparency in government. The failure to implement the promised integrity legislation. 3 general elections within 8 years. The White Oat scandal. The destruction of the sugar industry. Billions on top of billions of dollars borrowed. The escalation of crime. And all we got a man there standing up, smiling his teeth. And people about there killing each other. What become of the Barbados Guyana Black Belly Sheep project? What going on with Black Belly Sheep? What going on with the Ferry project that they talk about year after year after year after year and we ain't saying nothing? Barbados, St. James North, I have laid out to you a long list of failures tonight. But I do not do this to spread despair. I do this so that I can ignite determination. Because determination that we, the people of Barbados, will not tolerate foolishness any longer. And our nation is not doomed on this path. We can change course, but only if we stand together and demand it. And with Friends of Democracy as your lead opposition party, we would fight the good fight for you, people of Barbados. So I say to you tonight, let us rise up and be heard. Do not let the intimidations make you silent. Do not let all them fancy billboards and huge words make you silent. Do not let them come in your communities and buy your votes with hampers and one road fixes and streets and think they got you vote. And next 5 years you suffering. We must see the bigger picture. 8 years of our lives has been spent under this current administration, and they do not listen. And as much as she said, Mia cares, they do not care about us. And they do not deliver. We cannot give them 9 more years, 10 more years, 15 more years. It's time to draw the line, and it's time to reclaim accountability in Barbados. And as we go through this campaign, I feel the spirit of our forefathers who would have fought for our rights, who stood up against the colonial masters, who built this proud nation of Barbados. And that fighting spirit is still alive in Barbados tonight, although the BLP might want us to think that it's gone. But it's right here, even in this crowd. And it's these parents who speak up at PTA meetings. It's the nurses who whistleblow about shortages in medication. It is the journalists who dig for the truth about public contracts and all these other things. It is you, Barbados. It is each and every one of us refusing to accept the lies of this current administration and demanding better. So let us stand up together, Barbados. Let us unite. Let us not be afraid. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your family. Go to your co-worker. Do not be shy. We need to explain why Barbados need change. And we need to explain why F.O.D is that change. When we leave here, we go into our communities and we have a lot of work to do. We go to every household. We have a lot of work to do, friends. And when that moment comes on February 11th to cast your vote, let us come out in our overwhelming numbers that they cannot deny that F.O.D is a force to reckon with. Barbados is counting on us. Barbados is counting on you. And the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. And tonight we serve notice to the BLP regime. Your time of unaccountability is over. A new dawn is coming to Barbados. One of justice and fairness and progress. But we must fight for it. And fight we will. I want to thank you. May God bless Barbados. And now let us go forth and take back our country. Friends of democracy, thank you.
that young women feel comfortable talking to about non-ideal circumstances. The candidate who ran her campaign with dignity and spoke out on your behalf. This is Steffanie Williams. She ran in the by-election, and though she was not elected, she stood by you and plans to stay by you. St. James North, you deserve to benefit from all Steffanie has to offer. Give her your vote on February 11th. Tonight, I want to share how our policies will work for you. You heard about the VAT policy multiple times, so I will not touch on that. I want to mention our policy that will remove roadblocks in child well-being. I am the Shadow Minister for the People Empowerment and Elder Affairs and the Disability Unit. And if our people are to be empowered, they need to be well educated. Families need to be educated. From the father who plans the family, to the mother who conceives the child who is born, and to the village that will help raise that child. We all need to be educated. Friends of Democracy plans to make rigorous and standardized testing of learning disorders a part of the process in the educational system. These assessments will allow us to understand how each individual child learns, and it will also allow us to detect any learning disabilities in the early, like dyslexia, autism, and it will also allow us to discover signs of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even depression. How many of you know that in every class of 20 students, there are at least 2 students who may have dyslexia? And then there are 5 students who are experiencing PTSD. And another 2 students may have ADHD. All 20 of these children are expected to follow the same syllabus, expected to reach the same benchmarks at the same time, and so many fall behind because they are simply not having their learning needs met. It is not for the lack of interest in learning that some children fail. It's because of the lack of resources and being in a classroom that isn't inclusive. I would have told you about my friend Thomas, who would have had a difficult upbringing in childhood and went through many difficulties at school. He became disruptive because of his difficult childhood and ended up in jail. Friends, it is for children and individuals like Thomas that the Friends of Democracy has conceptualized a 3-fold policy that would transform our educational system and truly create an inclusive learning environment. A, the assessments for learning disorders upon the entry to nursery and primary school, and testing for mental health and behavioral problems at critical stages throughout their educational journey. To support our children, their parents, the teachers, and address these learning difficulties by training a specialized unit of personnel to carry out the testing and informational seminars. C, an upgrade to the modern school infrastructure program to ensure the inclusive classroom environments, adaptive technologies, and frameworks for accessibility are fundamental parts of all learning institutions. Friends, our children deserve an educational system which accurately supports how they learn and develop, regardless of their uniqueness. Thomas could have avoided spending time in prison and his behavioral issues being properly addressed. And for lack of time, I'll leave you with this to consider. Who is better to implement the policies for our children than parents? Who would be better for creating policies that develop communities than a person who is actually active in community work and development? Who has better proposals structured on integrity, transparency, and service for Barbadians than the Friends of Democracy? Who is better for St. James North than our friend Steffanie Williams? Again, I am the candidate for Christchurch East Central, and that's it for me tonight.
And tell one up, we got some proper young ladies both here? All right, then. Steffanie, we here for you, or no? All right. All right, next we introduce the family man, the pastor. He's one of the shining stars. Yeah, I've heard many great reviews from people that I would never expect to hear it from. He's a pastor, as I said, a community advocate. He's an entrepreneur, and he believes the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but unfulfilled purpose. For over a decade, he served communities through counseling, volunteer outreach, and job creation, and mentoring young men, which we know that the young men need. Whenever there's a rise and there's a need, he is always there. He's guided by faith, family, righteousness, and respect for the human life. Matthew's work is rooted in service and accountability. He has helped create opportunities for those in need and has served on charitable boards dedicating to healing, education, and restoration. At the core of everything he does is one mission: empowering people to become the best versions of themselves. If given the opportunity, Matthew will be a great, he will be a great representative for his area. But we here for Steffanie today, right? But I introduce to you Matthew Thorne.
Good night. A wonderful good night to everyone viewing across the world, to those all across our beloved Barbados, the entirety of St. James, and a special, most special good night to St. James North. Blessings to each and every one of you here. It is really an honor and quite humbling every time I come to the podium as a representative of the Friends of Democracy, recognizing that I'm a part of something that is historical, recognizing that I'm a part of something that's new, something that is bold, and something that is going to stand as a beacon for generations to come because of the stance that we have taken in this country. So you notice I pause a lot because I'm thinking, and I'm always asking the Lord to guide my words, because I always say to people, and the scripture speaks about it as well, our words are tremendously powerful, and we have to guard and be mindful of the things that we say, because they're either going to build up or they're going to tear down. You know, I was so encouraged by Jamal as he spoke this evening. You know, I came while he was speaking, and he spoke about that fighting spirit. And it is something that each and every one of us, I should say, rather, that God has placed. And I believe that he has placed for such a time as this, where when we see things happening that should not be happening, I believe that many of us filled with the Holy Spirit have the responsibility to use our same words and to speak out against things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. So when he was speaking and giving that encouragement and that exhortation, I was standing by my car and I almost jumped to my feet. But I was standing already. I forgot I was standing up. You know, I wanted to further leap, you know, because it was so riveting and so inspiring. And the same can be said for the young women in our party, Steffanie and Dominique, who spoke already. And it's a testimony to what you heard our General Secretary have said before, of the caliber of the persons that we have entertained because of the type of Barbados that we intend to shape for tomorrow. Young women whom we herald not only as women of God, but as women of substance. And young people that have stepped forward because they have something to offer in this country, Barbados. So I salute the two of you and the others as well that have spoken before and will speak again. So I come also in agreement with what Steffanie will say, what Jamal has said, and what Dominique has said on her behalf. As a young woman that is determined to be your representative, and I have no doubt in my mind that so help her God, that she will be your voice and your next Minister of Parliament. So I throw my voice, I throw my worth and weight behind Miss Williams as she continues to be the beacon in St. James North, at the Northern Sphere, lending her voice and her time to a people that are worth every bit of time that she has to offer. You know, there are a couple sayings that I think are unique to us here in Barbados. Some of them we know from elsewhere. And there's a saying that goes, what ain't catch you in, pass you. What ain't catch you in, pass you. And you know, a lot of that has its origin rooted in God's timing. You know, when people say he has something for you, you can get. There's another saying that we have here, empty vessels make the most noise. And we are at a junction in our lives where Barbados needs action and true and genuine representation. I got another one for you, and this one is them this here, but them don't listen. Them this here, but them don't listen. Meaning things come in through one ear and it gone out the next. You might have heard this one before. It said he got more mouth than he got. Somebody's a brain. That could work too. Or teeth. You know, people that talk a lot and do a little. And I left you with this one. Every skin teeth and a laugh. You can say so too. You know, and that speaks to every smile not being genuine. And it reminds me, and it encourages you to watch people's intentions. Huh? Look at what people are doing rather than what people are saying. And I would have shared with you quite recently, going good. It's going great. Honestly, I really don't have a negative thing to say about, you know, the people that I come into contact with. They all want change. They all are sick and tired and sick of the established parties, and they want something different. But I would also say, on the other hand, even though I get those kind of responses, because every skin teeth and a laugh, and you get a lot of laughs, it's hard to tell then the people that may not support you at this time. Which is true. Because by that metric, I can tell you, all of us will be forming the government hands down come February the 12th. But, you know, this walk I describe always as a calling. And for too long, we have allowed persons to enter this space, our space, We've allowed persons to enter our home that have no intentions of being servants in their communities. That is what it means to be a parliamentary representative. A lot of times persons ask me how I marry the pastoral walk to the ministerial walk. And I say, well, what do you mean? Because not only is there a lot of mirroring effects and images in the political scene, but it's a place where you come to serve the people. It's a place where you help persons to become the best versions of themselves. It's a place where you understand that the role of a political party is to make people's lives better, to govern with integrity, to govern with honesty, and to win the trust and the hearts of every man and woman in every single constituency in this country. I am so encouraged by a scripture that is dear to me in Matthew 20:22. And it says that whoever desires to be first among them, let him be your servant. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So I leave you with that message. No, I ain't finishing it. But the only message I leave with you from Scripture, because I believe that there's much that we can take from the book of life that we can implement into our lives as a guide, as a roadmap for how we should look at people that have come with an intention to serve our country, to serve our communities, and to serve in the House of Parliament, the highest body. Because I believe that the political party is still the best vehicle by which we can do the most good for the most amount of people in this country. We've got all types of organizations, but it is here that we should hold people to the highest standard. And when things are not going according to plan, we must question them. So I ask you to question us, to scrutinize us, and to hold us to the highest standard. Because I believe that 2 terms in office, not 1 but 2, is more than enough time for any government, if they're serious about the policies that they brought before you, to implement them, to see them through. So I say to you, when they come offering money, tell them, look, take the money and watch me. Because you need the finances, huh? So take the money and tell them, watch me. Because I don't think that we should be ever comfortable in a country where you can have a government so boldly asking for a 3rd term. And doing so in a manner recognizing that they have not fulfilled their agreement and their covenant to you. It's not so much that they've just had the 2 terms, but they've had 2 terms with 30 ministers in government. And you ask yourself, okay, you now have every single person at your disposal. All 30 individuals. Therefore, you should be at your most efficient in solving the issues in this country. I believe that any government that truly cares, and we heard a lot about that as a slogan in recent times, and that is why I started by saying that let's not look at the things that we say out of our mouths, but let's look at the actions of people when they say that they care about us. Because any policy in any manifesto that is brought before Parliament and comes into the House of Assembly should always be doing 2 things: reducing the cost of living and addressing the employment issue in this country. So right here, I can show you how if a government say that it cares, every single policy that they bring to you, the people who have common sense, because when they're foolish, man, you could think. And that's why a lot of people in this time can surprise the government, because they can take the money and they can do something contrary to the thing that they believe they can use the money for. Because people's eyes are beginning to be open and to see the government hoodwinking people, hardworking Bajans in this country. And I'm believing, I'm seeing people, I am seeing people. And in their spirit, they're saying that enough is enough. So I'm saying then to Barbadians that when people come to us, we can look back and say, okay, you've had 2 terms and you're asking for a 3rd. Show me how you have aggressively tackled the unemployment in this country. Show me how you have aggressively looked at the cost of living in this country. Because the most important things in this country are the people. You that are here tonight, you are Barbados' greatest resource. You are Barbados' greatest assets. And above every hotel coming into this country, above every foreign investment, which we need and we're not knocking, but us, the people that are here and that will be here after every document is signed, after every handshake is made, after every agreement is conversed, we will still be here. So let us begin to look at things in that practical sense as we move forward. Because accountability really is the missing element. And I love what my friend Jamal said, where we are on a mission to return power to you, the people of St. James North. Because it is yours. If it was not yours, you would not be exercising any right to vote on February the 11th. Because your voice would not matter. If your voice matters, if your decision counts in this country, and it stands for something in Barbados and St. James North, then it must also stand for something during the period of which a government takes office and leaves office. So I want to say to you that accountability is not just a slogan, but it's where we return power to the people. And that is why we are here to bring balance to an economy, balance to our country, to strengthen democracy, and to restore the accountability and balance in government. It is not enough to talk about it at a press conference. It is not a promise made before an election and often forgotten. But accountability is our duty. It is our manifesto that we bring to the people of Barbados. And tonight, too many Barbadians have felt that duty have been neglected. And even as we canvassed with Steffanie just a few days ago down the road, we hear a person's voice their frustrations with how the parties have become so comfortable with each other they have lost their way. But tonight I point to a new way. A new way where we can call each other friend. A new way where I highlighted to you just now in Matthew 20, that we can use as a guide for the upliftment of our entire nation. Because I am convinced that a rising tide raises all boats. But we've seen a government where the tide has been rising, but there are certain vessels that have been anchored to the seafloor, and that is you. Sir, that is you in your homes tonight. Mom, that is you where you're not getting ahead and enjoying the same level of success as the leaders of this country. And I must ask you why. So that is why I love what Jamal begun with, because there is a fighting spirit that is placed in all of us that has been laying dormant for long enough. But we are awakening that spirit in you tonight. Because it is to the advantage of the ruling party if you do not exercise your vote on February the 11th. It is to their advantage if you do not go and vote for Steffanie, someone that has your best interests at heart. You must ask yourself, who has my best interests at heart? Only tonight as I canvass with my team, an incredible team, Michael, Hiron, hey, Michael, Hiron, and Adrian. Giants among us. We were talking with a lady, Mesquite, I believe, and she expressed the deep concern and the voter apathy, that she was struggling with, and she really didn't have any intention to vote. And part of her challenge was seeing how the political parties in this country treat the average Barbadian, and she was not happy about it. She wasn't pleased. But the Friends of Democracy to her was like a ray of fresh hope. So our party is here bringing you hope. It's a promise of hope that is delayed but not denied and will be fulfilled, so help me God. So help the members of this party, the 12 who have stood up mirroring the 12 that once stood up about 2,000 years ago and that you have known in your scripture. They're here to mirror, to bring a change that is radical, desperate, and necessary. I say to you tonight, I stand on behalf of a lady, Steffanie, who is ready, she's willing, and she's able. So we have no choice but to live in a country where people, they work hard, they play by the rules, they pay their taxes, and yet they're still struggling to make ends meet. How is it? There's no sort of help me understand, as Steffanie would say, make it make sense that there is no radical intervention. There are no policies geared at the head two things that every single policy should be geared to: reducing the cost of living and finding or creating employment for those that have none. I ask you again, does the government really care? Because people are still struggling to make ends meet, and yes, we understand that it's a difficult place, but well, come on. Because we have decisions affecting their lives. And I spoke earlier about making decisions behind closed doors, without explanation, without consultation, without consequence. And that's the result as a lack of accountability that we should have in government. Accountability ensures consequence. When a government says, I will deliver X by a certain time, and there is no delivery, but ensures that things get done by the time they're supposed to get done. So it is vital that accountability to the people to whom you said you work for. So what we want to do is to get the government to behave like they work for the people they say they work for. Because right now they don't behave like it. They behave like the overlord or the massa. So I say to you that that is not democracy. Let me make it clear. That is in no way democracy. Democracy, or the lack of it, rather breeds distance. And it is distance from the people, unable to close that gap and bring the representation that you deserve. Closing that gap and being a present representative, it is that develops trust. So we at the Friends of Democracy believe that accountability begins with a very simple truth. And that is that government exists, as I said before, to make people's lives better. And there's no other way around it. That has to be the purpose. So if you hold public office, I'm telling you tonight, brothers and sisters, my friends under the shop, my friends in the community, my friends that are hearing me tonight, if you hold public office, we have to have leaders that also hold public trust. Barbadians, we're not unreasonable. We're not unreasonable. And we understand that it is difficult to lead at that level. We understand that mistakes will happen. But what we can no longer accept is silence that we should have instead of answers. Excuses instead of responsibility. And arrogance instead of humility. And I heard my brother speak tonight about some of the issues that happen in our educational system. And I was befuddled to see how you could make such a gross error against one of the most vulnerable people in our children, known in our society, known as our children. How you can make such an error and you don't come with such an attitude of forgiveness and say, you know what, I was wrong, man. I'm sorry about that, you know. We made a mistake. We should not have done it this way. We should have done it with true consultation, and we could have done it better. It was not, for me, the issue wasn't so much that we had the error. But of course, that is incompetence, and an incompetence that we cannot accept because of who it was done to. They are the future of our nation. If they would treat the future of our nation with such disdain and scant respect, you could imagine how they will treat the average Barbadian in this country. But it was more so the attitude when people called out the gross neglect. And you can see such a spirit of arrogance and disgust on the faces of these individuals that have entered into covenant with us and have promised to be the people's guide. So we have to move to a place that when institutions break down, the public deserves action, not blame shifting, not hiding behind each other. That is what we stand here as a representation. You heard Dominique mention our Christian values, something that we take seriously and we are guided by. Accountability means showing up for work. It means explaining your decisions. It means standing before the people here in St. James South and saying, this is what we did. This is how we did it. This is what we are going to do. Here is what we plan to do next. Because you are worthy of it. So for too long, we have lacked it. It has felt like it's been something that has been optional. Something that has been applied to some, avoided by others, and rarely enforced at the top. But we, the Friends of Democracy, we want to let you know that we are taking a firm stance where we're saying that that is enough, and enough is enough. So what we are going to do, given the opportunity by you, as we humbly ask for your vote tonight, as we humbly ask that you join us in partnership to rebuild this country, Barbados, and strengthen democracy and bring balance back to our government. We humbly ask you to help us, to empower you. We will protect you, our citizens, and not punish you. Not bring laws and rules, as I mentioned before, that are draconian. Because if we're seeing that now, my friends, if we're seeing that after 2 terms of holding 30 seats, you could imagine what we're going to see after a 3rd term. The government is going to wake up one morning and decide the country ain't called Barbados no more. They can decide that St. Michael can call St. Thomas, St. Andrew is St. John. And if you believe you have an issue now with accountability, if you believe that we have issues now, we can have real hell if we do not bring balance and stability back to this country. So we are here to stand and to demand regular and clear reporting on how our money is being spent. Because it is your money. I stressed on this before. It is your money that you work hard for. Why should someone take up your money and spend it foolishly? Because we're not fools and we understand the power of a dollar. So I want you also to let the government understand the power of a vote. The power of a dollar and the power of a vote. Transparency, my fellow Barbadians, tonight cannot be seen as an inconvenience. Transparency has to be seen as a necessity now more than ever. I believe that it is in fact the oxygen to our democracy, and accountability is not about punishment, but it is about trust. When people trust their government, they participate, and when they participate, democracy grows stronger. So instead of talking about strength, this, strength, that, what about actually showing true strength through democracy? True strength through participation. True strength through accountability. You see, it really isn't about left or right. It really isn't about colors. It's actually about what is right and what is wrong in this country. Because right and wrong doesn't change when a party changes. Right and wrong doesn't change when the color that you put on in representation changes. It stays the same. I want to reinforce that we believe that leadership should be visible. I want to reinforce that we believe that leadership should be accessible and leadership should be answerable. Only a few days ago, Steffanie, Kerry, our candidate in St. James South, and myself, the candidate for, St. James Central, and myself, the candidate for St. James South, we opened our branch house, which we termed the People's House, a place that we believe persons can come to and share the issues, share the challenges in the constituencies and be heard. Share ideas and bring innovative solutions and hear what our plans are for St. James in the north, the central, and the south. And it is something, for those of you that may be wondering if it is just for the election season, no. It is something that we're going to have accessible and open to all of St. James. So you have a place to come to when you can't find a minister for this particular constituency. We will be here for you. We're here for you now. We're here for you yesterday, and we will be here for you tomorrow. Because visibility is important. You are important. What you have to say to Steffanie, to Kerry, and to myself, it is important. And St. James, as a parish, is important to us. Barbados, as a parish, is important to us. Let us begin to treat it with importance. Let us begin to hold every citizen with a level of value that reflects their worth. So I ask, or I say rather, that if we are in fact elected, that we're not going to disappear behind closed doors. We're not going to change our numbers. We're not going to take down the posters and the signs. We're not going to be like certain ministers that you cannot find. I was walking through a constituency. I just heard somebody say something the other night. I was walking through a constituency and somebody shouted out, "Friend, friend!" And that showed such love, such connection. And there are people, man, that are rooting for us and want to see us succeed. So a part of that success, as I mentioned, is what we have embarked to do as a constituency, a collection of 3 constituencies. So get in touch with us. Come down and meet with us this weekend. Come down and meet with us on February the 12th. Come down and meet with us at the end of the month. We want to hear from you. We're going to be there as your representative when you can't find yours. We believe that representation, communication, and respect are important. Only a few months ago, you would have seen our leaders hiring people on social media, firing people via press conferences, locking out people, lying on people. I mean, we shouldn't have these kind of things in a society. As leaders, we should be leading by example. So we're not going to treat the criticism that you bring to us with hostility, but we will listen to you and we will explain ourselves and be here for you. When we are wrong, I can tell you that we will be here to say that we are wrong, because we are on a path together learning how to be better for you, recognizing that this is one of the most difficult places to operate from. Barbados, we believe that you deserve a government that respects its intelligence, honors its contribution, and earns its confidence every single day. Accountability is how we rebuild that confidence, in you, St. James. Accountability is how we restore faith in politics. I talked about the voter apathy from that lady, Miss Keane. I speak to so many people that have given up on our political system. But I want to tell you tonight, let us not give up. Let us not throw in the towel, but let us fight for our democracy. Let us fight for each other. Come alongside the friends of democracy and fight with us as we fight on your behalf, because your voice matters. Your vote matters, not only at election time, but the other 4 years where you can't find your representative. But this will be the first time, and that's why I talk about history being made in this country. We will be your present representatives, and we will serve you with honor, dignity, and respect because you are worthy of it. So I remind you that your representative in this constituency, she's ready, she's willing, and she is able. So this is our promise to you. And I remind you, sometimes persons will say, well, you don't make promises. And of course, you are understanding of the reality of which you speak and what you can deliver realistically to people. But a lot of times, our leaders don't want to make promises because they know full well that they're hypocrites and they're telling you lies. And we see this in their actions. And I don't want to speak this way. I wish I can speak this way so the world can see on the world stage when other people listen to us from other countries, the type of leadership that we have cultivated and crafted in this country. But it is vexing to me and to others to see that we have leaders that are so bad. So I want to remind us of something that is tremendously important. And I know some of us have forgotten. But I want to remind you that Barbados has to. It has to in 2026. It has to work for Barbadians again. Please hear me tonight. We have come to a juncture in 2026 where we can no longer accept the standards of mediocrity that have bred what we call politicians today. But we have to bring ourselves back to the type of servant that Jesus described in the word just now in Matthew 20. It is that type of servant that puts others before self. And that is the responsibility of the minister in Parliament, representing your interests inside the house and outside the house with dignity, with pride and responsibility. So I remind you that Barbados has to work for Barbadians again, and not just in words, not just on press releases, not just at election time, but the 4 years in between. Because it's not enough to say we do a good job looking pretty and strutting across the world stage. That's important. But that has to come second to Barbadians here that are suffering. That has to come second to the cost of living that needs to be addressed. It has to come second to men, women, and children in disadvantaged communities that don't have light in their homes. It has to come second to not just the minor issues like roads, people having electricity and Wi-Fi, lighting, utilities. But those are things that we are supposed to be doing automatically. Those aren't things that we should be coming with a lifted chest and declaring this is what we'll do for people. That's an insult to your intelligence. But where is the innovation? Where is the passion to see Barbados on the world stage as a top exporter in the Caribbean? Where is the passion to see when people look at the Caribbean, they begin to see our young men leading in innovation, leading in technology, understanding artificial intelligence to the point where we began to be the pioneers and coming alongside larger players. That is truly punching above our weight. Not saying that we got smooth roads without potholes. For too long, we have had small-minded approaches to governance. But tonight I challenge you to challenge your leaders. Challenge me in St. James South. Challenge Kerry in St. James Central. Challenge Steffanie in St. James North. Because those things are things that we are supposed to do for you. But there are bigger things that we can do in this country and for you and for the youth that are going to shape tomorrow that will define us on the world stage. So I want to re-emphasize Barbados. I want to re-emphasize St. James North tonight that if we lead, we have to lead with love. I believe that we have to govern with integrity, and I've said this again, and a teacher taught me at school one time, when we say something, it's not because we ain't got nothing else to say. He said that when you're saying it for emphasis. Or he said that when you're saying it, it's because you can have a test on it later. So I'm saying it again that we must put our people first. St. James South, you must come first in this country. It is a non-negotiable. Because it is only then that Barbados would be able to thrive and not just survive. An example of that is within our tourism and hotel sector. Last year we heard about I believe is almost 10 hotels now being launched in this country, and that is okay. Because we the people, again as I mentioned, are our most valuable resource. But our country needs, our government needs to negotiate from a place of strength. In that when it comes to employment, we must ask ourselves why our young men from this constituency, ask yourself why the young women from this constituency are hired on contract. Why they're not being hired permanently. Because if you're hired on contract, it bars you from being able to get a loan. It bars you from being able to benefit from national insurance. It bars you from living a life of dignity and self-worth because you can't take that money, how much ever it may be, and get a car and get a mortgage and say, I can have a piece of the rock. It doesn't allow you to be the functioning and present citizen that you are supposed to be in this country. So that's what we're talking about when we say in the Friends of Democracy, that's an example of what it means to thrive. Because then your ability to negotiate, your ability to live as a citizen in this country with dignity is something then that we can be proud of. I wish to leave you with this. If, for example, we had a fleet of vehicles and we were going to change those drivers because we recognize that those drivers are not working properly. They're not functioning properly. They're not driving properly. We recognize then that they need changing and we change them. You're not going to keep those drivers on if you have a fleet of vehicles as a company. Any sane person would recognize that perhaps these individuals are not the best individuals that keep looking up my car. They don't understand the mechanics. They can't change a tire. They don't understand what the vehicle needs when it makes a certain noise. You would change that individual because they do not understand how to properly function as the driver of that vehicle. It is like so with our government. And therefore we have come to a place where we need to change the governance in this nation. So I ask you, and I ask you humbly tonight, to allow the Friends of Democracy to drive you into the future. A future where every man and every woman is treated with dignity. Where every job that is created for them, or that they're given the power to create, because they're no longer in a society that is breeding hopelessness, but one that is breeding encouragement and strength. One that is breeding a level of opportunity for our young people. Give us the opportunity to paint the picture that we have in our manifesto like on a canvas from an artistic work of an artist. Give us the opportunity, give Steffanie the opportunity to drive you into a better Barbados and to a future where we can all be proud, so that when we say our national anthem, and we put our hand across our chest and we sing the words, we can do so now because we believe them. We can do so now because the words in our anthem reflect a Barbados that is true. A Barbados that is accountable to us because we have a leadership that loves us and cares. Barbados, good night, and may God bless you. We love you.
From the heart of St. Michael,
No,
a story unfolds.
did they not mention
A
that
man
he's one
of
of the
the
shining stars?
people, brave and
And that's what the education system has produced. Excellent speaker. I hope that one of these days they can speak as well as he does. I ain't get there eventually, man. I ain't get there eventually. All right, now we introduce Laker, but his government name is Ricardo Williams. He's a former student at the Foundation School, a respected leader in sports, music, and community development. He's represented Barbados in football at both the junior and the senior level. He's played professionally and founded the Deacons Farm football team. He's an accomplished musician, a former musical director of the Wendy Allen Band, and he's toured internationally and collaborated with many of Barbados' leading artists. He's the owner of the Trident 666 recording studio. I wish I knew that a couple months ago. He's a strong advocate for preservation of spooge music, and that's a very important thing. That is a Bajan thing that should never die. He's active in the public and the community service. He has served as a manager of the Deacons Development Complex and held board positions across multiple organizations. And he currently serves as our second vice president. I welcome to you, Ricardo Williams.
But the man should have said, do you like spooge music? You cut out that part? Yeah. That belong to me. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. A little correction, Sherlin, before I go on from here. I run Trident 66. You see the extra 6? Don't put it on there at all. I know that's a slippery tongue, but that's a dangerous man you're playing with. Good night to the good people of St. Michael's, St. James North. I was at St. Michael all day, so it sounds like it ain't get out of my head yet. St. James North seems to me like if I'm in Toronto. This place biting. I know about you all, but this place biting, right? So I got to try and get some life in me and in the atmosphere. But I went canvassing today in my constituency, St. Michael Northwest, and I went into my hometown. But I always left the best for last. God does the one that you can face, believe it or not, the stiffest opposition. God, people that expect a lot of you. And I had some interesting conversations. I know that when you canvass, you're not supposed to stick too long at some places, but it's difficult when you're known to just say hi, goodbye, and go on. You got to engage in conversations, so you got to make it your mind to stay the course. And most of the time, a lot of the conversations was about yesterday and not today, and how yesterday was, and how people long to get back yesterday today. I know if that's possible, but meaning two things. They got a very aged community in Barbados. I don't know if people recognize that. They got more old people in Barbados than young people. And but the example was set from at top. And the people the people talk to me a lot today about life and the interesting thing about life and what they would like to see happen. I met, even though I raised in Goodland and in Deacon's Farm, so I would probably know a lot of the people, but having gone away for a while and out and about, some of the older folk that don't walk about, and I went in the house today, and Miss Burke, 96 years old. She is approaching her 96th birthday. You all guys might know Wendy Burke, Wendy's mom. That woman is full of life at 95 years old, going into her 96 years. She even showed me some exercises to do, and I was ashamed that I couldn't even get something to do, because I can't stand up now and bend and touch my toes. And I defied she was touching her toes, so I quizzed her. I said, we would just eat. We would just drink. And she told me I drink what the earth gave her. And she's eat and drink natural foods. She raised on it, and she never went away from it. And I could see the results. And I said that to say this, that we got to start encouraging our children to eat and drink properly. And one of the reasons I said that, again, just about 5 yards from her, is a friend of mine now that he almost lost his foot because of the eating habits. And when you, the candidates there would know this, and the people that canvassing, but when you canvass, you really get in contact with reality. Things that you don't really get to do often. You get to meet people and meet people's life that you don't really call. Normally you call it in today's life, you just go along through the day to work, back home, and TV or whatever it is. You hardly get a chance to really talk to people, interact with people, find out how people's lives are. And I know you're saying you're cold. I can warm you up now, just now though. Right? But I just had to mention that little bit because she motivated me now. I wanted to live to 120, but like I can try to make 146. Because she might that she ain't going out just now. And if you see her, you will realize that she ain't in a hurry that she can go. Because she ain't got none of the things that really was sending people down. She ain't got Alzheimer's. She in good condition. If you don't me ask Danny, she in real good condition. You know, at 95, going into her 96 here. I meet some 89-year-olds and stuff. All these people are in their faculties. So I say that there's still hope. So we got to start getting our young people to be mentored by some of these older people because they got away. They got away, and some of them got away because of the system that we live in now that encourages people to live a life that is not Barbadian. This is why when they came up there, you play that, do you like blues music? I say, yeah, that's what it says. Because that belongs to us. We got some good habits in Barbados, and we intend to go back to those habits. I don't like to use the word going back, but we got to make sure that our children are raised properly. And I say that because of the blood that is flowing the street of Barbados daily. When it's in a shooting, it's a stabbing. And most of the people that are going down are under 25 years old. And most of that comes from not being brought up properly. I know you can get some lashes for that, because some parents don't want to accept the fact that they fail and failing because they are not doing the things that they're supposed to do as parents. And political parties, we are parents too. We are parents that run the government. The children is the people, and we got to run the government how you run your house properly. The Barbados Labour Party is not doing that. That's why Barbados is the way they are today. Because if you run the party the way that you would bring up your children, we would have a good country. We would be called again the gem of the Caribbean. We would not be lost in this murder that is going on left and right in this little small island, 166 square miles. I can't help saying it. 350 murders in less than 7 years. Something is really, really wrong. This never happened before in the existence of Barbados, and Barbados was existing since the early 1600s. This is 2026. When it should be getting better, it's getting worse. So this is why God birthed this party. I was checking my history up to this morning. I was looking at newness in politics. Back in 1948, when we got our first speaker, black speaker, KNR Husbands. And he didn't enter the house in a political party. He entered the house back then as an independent. As an independent. So there was always things that happened that God orchestrated in this town, in this island, Barbados. When it was impossible then, independent and a black man being the first black man in 1948. KNR Husbands. So Doc Husbands. Well, you know we're talking about in truth. They call him Doc Husbands. They don't want to call him Doc, but they call him Doc Husbands. A short man. Good man. He hasn't fought till he get him in the Barbados Labour Party. Well, that was before the Democratic Labour Party time. So it shows you that there's always hope in Barbados for newness. And anything that good people would gravitate towards, friends of democracy, is something that is good. And people are beginning to gravitate towards it. I am led to social media daily. I was never really a social media guy. I never had the time for social media. But every 5 minutes, somebody's sending something to me, and most of the comments are good, real comments about F.O.D. Any negative events, comments on F.O.D. in social media, when I look, I can actually tell you who the person is. One of these people like he's that's saying it. But the average Barbadian that ain't have no axe to grind with anybody, and just looking at that at face value, saying, I like this party. I engage in people like that today, people that are Barbados Labour Party supporters and Democratic Labour Party supporters. And they like Friends of Democracy and say there's a place in politics in Barbados for them. So we got to keep pressing on, and pressing on, because the future of Barbados depends on the Friends of Democracy. We have tried both of these parties, and they're almost extinct. In fact, now to a point now where they actually merged and becoming even one party. Every day or every week or every month, there's a defection between left and right. This is why I say that God raised us up, because we cannot behave in that manner. This is serious business. Politics is serious business. Nothing that affects the lives of people in the world like politics. You cannot take politics for granted. You cannot jump from left to right. Not when you have people's interests at heart. You got to stand for something. You should not be bought. You know who were bought? Slaves were bought. Men don't get bought. There's either man or you ain't a man. And these mice that were running around, keeping a lot of noise, and then want to come and run for the highest office in this land, something is wrong. We got to reject them. Because we come out here tonight and stand up in the cold and the rain dripping. Beseeching the people up in the houses out there that can stand and hear my voice, that when you come out next week Tuesday, the election is Wednesday. I want you coming out next week Tuesday. We got a national meeting next Tuesday. Come from the country and come to town. Because this is a march for freedom of Barbados. Come from Pike Corner, all up the way up 2 miles and a quarter, all up here in Bakers, and pass and come right up to the capital of St. Michael Northwest, Deacon's Farm. And then you can hear the gospel preached by F.O.D. So that when you go to sleep tonight, all on your mind is 12 disciples. I see you up there in the house. Come next week, 12 disciples. And from down here, make sure that when you get there, you vote for Steffanie Williams. This is a new change. It ain't working. What we got now ain't working. It ain't working. Blood on the streets. People getting murdered by the day. Politicians fighting and crossing the floor willy-nilly. We come to bring some stability to this country. And we have to be relying on the people of Barbados. Hold us accountable for it. Hold us accountable for it. We hold ourselves accountable. These are men and women of God, led by a woman of God. Now the party can't say that. They cannot say it. And God still rules. And any country that is not run by God must perish. Or on the road for destruction. And we are on the road for destruction. Now we can get it back out. God has brought F.O.D. for that reason. 12 disciples to save us. When Jesus walked, he walked with 12. There had thousands following the 12. But he picked 12. And he didn't went in the university and pick the 12 either. He went down by the dock and looked for real people with real issues. These real people here with real issues, you know. Some of you like Peter, just call me Peter, call somebody tongue fast and sharp. But there was the people that God said after your own heart. David, like a girl, and the boy like a girl like he. Them is the people that after God's heart, real people. They don't want these mock cats walking about in tight suits and dressing up pretty, black like you and me, and don't think black, they're like an Oreo, black, and inside them white. Because they're treating me worse than the white people ever treat me. Because when we get to this point that I talk about Karina's husband when they started this, in 1948. That's the progress that black people made to get to 1948 to be a first black speaker. Now we're in 2026. And we got 30 blacks in the House of Assembly. Don't get good pass for blacks, so don't get worried. We got 30 blacks in the House of Assembly. And then treating me worse than the white people treated us. Because we expected the white people to treat us that way. We don't expect this to treat us so. So we got to get them out. We got to get them out. We got to start this country over. Otherwise, we will all perish before our time. And we got to make it right. We got 12. I don't want 7. I don't want 3. Some people say if you're getting 2. I want all 12. You can hear me up there, ministry. I want all 12. Vote for Steffanie Williams. I knew you can hear me. You can't see her because she's short. But you can hear me. Vote for Steffanie Williams. We bring it all. Coming from the north. Shirley and Orlando, you bringing him up. The water will change. We can bring fresh water. We already start carrying bottled water. But we can bring fresh water to this country as soon as St. Lucie, we can relieve that problem in a jiffy, quite in the rocket science to take up some pipe and change some pipe. Don't let them fool we. You ain't building a building. You're digging down the hole. You're moving the pipe up the pipe bar. You get rid of that. You don't want that pipe no more. I see a lot of blue pipe all around Barbados. They call it PVC. Well, lady PVC. And you bring Chinese. They're supposed to be the best road diggers in the world. What happened then? You got Chinese working, you got Mexicans working, you got Cubans working, and still can't get the water clear. Unless they plan to kill us. I ain't paranoid, I being factual. I ain't paranoid. Don't get me wrong. I ain't paranoid. I speaking from being factual. They bring Chinese to deal with the water. There is places in China where they say no blacks allowed. In China. I know when they want to hear this type of conversation. But we got to talk because I got children and grandchildren. I got children and grandchildren. They bring Chinese to fix the water. They got places in China that black people are not allowed in 2026. So you can deduce what you want to deduce from that. We got to start doing things differently. We got to start taking back our country. You just heard the reverend just now, the pastor speak just now. He don't raise his voice like me, but he got more fire in him because he full with the Holy Ghost like most of us here. The Holy Spirit walks and talks with it. When I speak here, I don't be talking. The Holy Spirit will tell me what to say. Because if I had to talk, sometimes something would come out that would run me in trouble. So I always got to be telling the Holy Spirit, take control, take control, take control. Because I know the power of the Holy Spirit, I know the power of God. When you save a wretch like me, had not for the Lord, I couldn't be standing up here tonight in a new powerful party. Down the bosom of the north of this country. Barbados is changing. The world is changing. My friend just told me there's just there has snow in Jamaica. I tell you a lie. You say, yes, there has snow in Jamaica. You could imagine they got snow in Jamaica in the Caribbean? And down here, my toes, I don't know, but you all my toes down here stiffening out for me. I cold. Look at me there. I got my hand in my pocket. I actually cold. But I got to stop in the cold because you cannot achieve anything without pain. That's why French democracy came out of pain, sufferation. They treated us like how they treated slaves back in the day. Pet you outside. Look at the video or worse. Look at the video. Even the police felt for us. Even the police felt for us when they pelt me out. And I will never forget that as long as I live. When I saw the video with the rat walking, with the bike swinging, and he's swinging so, I said, when I saw the video, I said, Lord, thank you that I wasn't there. Because a real soldier, I thank the Lord that I wasn't there. Because it would not have ended that way. But the Lord did it. Because if it wasn't there, if it was there, we wouldn't got F.O.D. And F.O.D. had to be birthed. God is moving mysterious ways wonders to perform. we would not have what we have now, and Barbados would not got the savior that they got now with F.O.D. I ain't promising people or telling people that we can come right and rise right to the top, about cream, there's rise to the top. It don't go right, don't bring top, but there's rise to the top. And we rising. And every day and every night, we rising. The Prime Minister knew it too, that way to snap the election, She wasn't worried about the other party. To snap the election, the nip being in the bud. They can't nip this. Because we were performing on the outside. And however God put me to perform, we can perform. Because we ain't going nowhere. And people will join this bus. They will join it. Good people too. Because we're not accepting anybody. You see them ones that jump left and right, you stay up in the left and right places. This is a train that going to heaven. There's a holy train. Ever could a singer with a singing fear. But the president is a singer. When she come out, beg you to sing it for her. But yes, people, our policies are as sound as they can be. Sound. And I probably feel the other candidates experience it when they go up there. But I know out there, people ask it, so what you all going to do? That's the first thing people is asking, what you all going to do? And you got to be sound with your policies. And when you start to talk your policies, at least from my experience, people just stop and listen and wonder. You can get that do, we can get anything do. It ain't rocket science. I always say it ain't rocket science. It ain't hard to do. As long as you care, you can get things done. And the easiest thing to do is to care. And the hardest thing to do is to not care. That sounds strange. You can catch that one later. Because people like to do the hardest thing first. And then just come back to do the easy way. You ever buy a phone? You ever buy a phone? You just buy your phone before you take it to leave that and really you start fixing your phone. And then your phone, you can't get it fixed. And then you start go back and leave that. You do the hardest thing. That's how life is. That's how human beings operate. Human beings operate at that level. So I was taught the truth enough. I thought from God, if I speak anything wrong, the Lord will punish me. I'm serious about these things. Sometimes I say things and it seems like a joke. I ain't joking though. I'm serious as a heart attack. Because I feel the punishment and the pressures just as much as you all or more. Because like I say, I got a grandchild. Not a grandchild, I got 12. When my son came up the farm road today, and he saw his father, which is me, and he stopped. My last grandson was in the back, strapping. And when he saw me, he tried to take his strap off him to get out. You want to get to granddaddy. He's only 14 months. He's only 14 months. And I guess that don't happen to only me. Everybody that got that, siblings, this happened to them. I'm trying to tell you that we're responsible for the upbringing of them. So we got to make sure that they grow up properly. Because we don't want the system to kill them. Barbados has an army. Who we fight? You ever realize what Thomas has established the army to do? Take me a land in the bed for the night. Because we don't fight nobody. Barbados army can't even be. The Caribbean don't fight the one other with armies. So what do you think the army set it there to do? When you realize, tell me. And we got a soldier in here, first vice president. He ain't going to tell you what the army set it to do. They might always tell you. But when they tell you shoot, he going to shoot. Even if he shoot anyone Rick to the next Rick, he going to shoot. They changed the name from the police force to the police association because it was force. Police service. They changed the name to tell them come and serve people because it was set up by the white people to kill us. Nothing didn't change. So life get a little more civil. But if you look at it, it still is the same thing. Because you can take the money that you waste in the army. Rick Young like this. And you could put that into sports. You could put that. No, I ain't going wrong with liking being like in a soldier because they got people that like it. I know Harrison love being a soldier. He walk with pride. Up to now, Harrison is still do. I can't even get it though. Rick is doing it's admire how this walking, you saw the pen is walking thing. I just admire it. Right? But one thing the back of it, they carry a gun. And the gun is kill. And the thing about them that they're trained to kill. They feed them food to kill. Them no eating the cake, they get no fast foods. They just get feed to kill. So you got to make up your mind that when you're raising your children, that your children don't have to take a soldier bullet or police bullet. That you raise them up to be good, honest, God-fearing children into manhood. That you can live your life and go to sleep and rest yourself knowing full well that you have done a good job. I don't think that nobody here, I would hope that nobody here has suffered the pain of losing a child recently or the last couple of years by a gun. I hope to God not. Because in my children, I just feel the pain sometimes of some that I know. It is not a good life or easy way to go out, especially for a young person. So I beseech you tonight, spread the word. Tell the children, the parents, come. Start to raise the children properly. Send them to Sunday school. Start them the right way. Send them to Sunday school. If you don't go into the church, send your children to Sunday school. Because if you check the ratio of Dodds, 99.9% of the people in Dodds never went to Sunday school yet. That should tell you something. 99.9% never went to Sunday school yet. That should tell you something. And I know when it's 99.9, it's 100%. Because something good will rub off on you when you go to Sunday school. And if we went out, all of us, Steve, all we went out, we went church, our little boys, and when we come out in the world, we forget church. Boy, in the church, you find a girl, you like party, nah, in the church. But God go away, coming back and say, come along home, you find you bring it home. Because you got the foundation. Because the most important thing of anything in life is the foundation. Don't care, build a big building and put all the sarsaparillas and put fancy things on top and the foundation crack, you got to lick it down. And that's why we got to make sure that these children get that foundation. Get them in. I prefer they go to Sunday school than regular school. Because we can homeschool them now. But we can't homeschool them with Sunday school. God, we ain't the priest, we ain't trained for that. Matthew can do that. We ain't trained for that. But send them to Sunday school. And we can go a better society. It can bring the politicians to be more accountable. Because if you get a lot of us here, around here, we might be imperfect, none of us perfect. Nobody said no, we're perfect. But I bet you, I use the same terms I use with the prison. 99.9% of people here ain't going to break nobody place. They ain't doing none of them things because they got a good foundation. Meaning, we say hey and jump me because hey nowadays a man running with a gun. Folks, I ain't going to keep you too long quite cold. And they got to keep some my fire for later. But I think that I reach up the hill, because I see some people look out the hill. Want to give me like a little wave. Steffanie, you got some support here in the north. That support should rain right into Matthew, and right into Orlando, and right into Kerry, down here in the north. You can pick off these down here in the north. And if we get into the house of 70 to 12, they got 18 for them. When they can keep the 18, when they can divide them as we want, when they can make it 18 love to them and 18-12 for we. When they can get 9-9 and then make Karina Prime Minister. You could do that, we might even take Steve and make him president. You never know what we will do. You never know what we will do. But if you give me that 12, don't think about no one or no two. I want all 12 disciples. They never split up the disciples. I want all 12 disciples. Send these 12 disciples to the house of assembly and watch the change in Barbados. I ain't saying give me the vote and watch, man. Watch the change in Barbados for the better. Good night, and God bless you.
to light and advocate for changes. I got to mention also that the president is here, Karina Goodridge. Yes, she's in the building and she's ready. But before then, we have a Caroline King, which is the campaign manager for Steffanie. She has had a task ahead of her, and she has been seemingly up to the challenge. So I will invite her here to give a few words.
Friends of democracy, leading in woman. She's the best for the West, fighting for you, walking with you. What's a Karina, vote Karina. Friends of democracy, leading in woman.
Peaceful greetings, everyone. Good night to
She's
you.
the best for the West, fighting for you, walking with you.
Greetings to you, everyone. Good night. I am very honored to be here to represent on behalf of Ms. Steffanie Williams. She is a force to reckon with, as you all may already know. And Barbados needs that change. And everybody is saying, vote for me, vote for me. But Steffanie has shown us why in her actions and not only the pretty talk most politicians give. So I want to start off by commending and thanking her for all that she's been doing, even before she became a part of the Friends of Democracy, and becoming a part of the Friends of Democracy and aligning herself with people with a similar ethics and character as she has. Yeah? Tonight, the topic I'm going to speak on, I'm not going to preach or speech or lecture. I get straight to the point because I'm, one of those kind of people. Oh, okay, you can hear me now? Right. What I'll be speaking on tonight is what happens when you don't vote for candidates who are loyal to accountability. Right? Let me say that one more time. What happens when you don't vote for candidates who are loyal to accountability? That's my topic, yeah? Before I get into that, I want to touch on, right, why people don't want to vote, why some people don't want to vote. Before I get into that, I want to touch on that because a lot of people have gotten to a point where they think that everybody's going to give pretty talk and there will be no results or there will be no show after the election day, which is what they're accustomed to. And Barbados needs the hope restored that people have integrity and that they have accountability, because if the youth were seeing that, they wouldn't have this amount of crime on the rise at the moment. The reflection of leadership is what we are seeing the youth play out at this point in time. And all of these things are things that would be addressed whether or not by Miss Steffanie Williams from the Friends of Democracy. Right? So as I said, I'm going to just get into 5 reasons why people don't want to vote before I get into what happens when you vote for candidates who are not loyal to accountability. So the reason number 1, right, why people decide they don't want to vote, right? And I'm a person that it was years that I have not voted because I didn't get a good reason enough to do it. So if you see people who know me, if you see me in politics looking to participate, that I know these people are solid, yeah? So reason number 1 is party loyalty, right? People want to go with what's familiar, right? And what's familiar, right, is not always good for society, right? You can meet a candidate like Miss Williams who will be better than the candidates at giving a voice to the voiceless over the candidates you've already known for years. What's familiar is not always best for a country and the future of our youth. Reason number 2, people don't trust pretty talk politicians give about what they'll do for the country after you vote them in. Friends of Democracy candidate Ms. Steffanie Williams is well known for her community empowerment actions over excuses. Make it make sense, social media campaigns long before she got into politics. Her work speaks for itself. Reason number 3. People think that all that comes with government initiatives is more tax and debt for the country. Unlike other candidates, Ms. Williams' initiatives were funded from donations and sponsorships that came from contributions that would not incentivize Ms. Williams to oppress Barbados as a result of funding initiatives. Unlike you can say for other candidates who you are more familiar with currently. Reason number 4. Barbadians prefer to be paid for their vote to guarantee benefit from voting before election. Let's look back in history to see what happens when decisions are purchased. Looking back, you would find that most decisions bought resulted in eventual slavery of a great nation. Don't let that be us in 2026. You never know who is planning to make Barbados a military state when you vote them in. F.O.D would never remove constituents' right to give an input on Barbados. Reason number 5, people, as I said before, people who know me and met me know that I didn't vote for years. And now for anyone to change my mind, the candidate has to be rooted in accountability for me to vote for them as trustworthy to represent on my behalf and fellow constituents. Ms. Williams is already well known on social media for speaking truths most cowards would struggle to publicly confront before she got into politics. It's fair to say, don't come, sorry. It's fair to say, don't see her as a politician, see her as a freedom fighter. For the youth, the elderly, and the elderly of Barbados who were forced to be shamed into silence about what matters that affects them in Barbados. Training of political science will be introduced to primary schools, as well as job attachment introduction training to empower youth to understand that their future is in their control to impact Barbados and the world at large. Renewing the lost self-esteem created in our youth to respect and honor the leaders of today instead of exploiting them. Ms. Williams is known for her brutal honesty, even when it's inconvenient, and she will be contactable before and after elections. Different to the level of accountability with the Friends of Democracy. In comparison to other parties, let's help DLP retire without further distress. We need a change, and we need a new party to hold the government better accountable than they were being held before, right? And the reasons why, sorry, a bit nervous, excuse me, right? So what happens when you vote for candidates who are loyal to accountability, right? They make sure that schools don't just get thousands of dollars for educating students and then leave them without experience. They spend a lot of money on education, and then they are not able to be placed in a job because people don't just want them to have a certificate, they want them to have the know-how on what to actually do in real life situations. Schools would be under the initiatives of Ms. Williams, incentivized to make sure that there's jobs attached to the training so that people will not be spending all of these thousands of dollars on education and then still be lacking for a job, which is some of the key things that are causing a lot of the unemployment in Barbados. People have a lot of degrees, a lot of education, and no job placement, and no knowledge about how to create employment for themselves or to navigate the job market through work experience through job attachment. As you already heard, Ms. Williams has an office location that you could visit on an appointment basis before and after elections, which you cannot say for some other candidates, right? And there's options to meet online and offline with her, as all of the Friends of Democracy has embraced social media. They're all contactable online or offline, which is what you can say for a lot of other candidates that you're familiar with. So I encourage you to revisit your thoughts about the reasons why you don't want to vote and consider that we need a change. And if we don't let the youth see us implementing that need for change and that advocacy for a different voice and a different representative, they will go by the wayside thinking that they have no control, and they will lose their esteem for the elders and the wisdom of the elders and listening to the elders because they're not seeing a change in leadership. Change is not always a bad thing when you have the right people in place. The people of the Friends of Democracy come from a background of resilience. They didn't just arrive, some privileged, some not. It is not a case where people would suppress people's voice. Everybody has a voice here with Friends of Democracy, and Ms. Williams is a perfect example of that. And I urge you all to vote Ms. Steffanie Williams, not just because I have an invested interest, but because the kind of person that I am individually, I would not advocate for anyone who I myself didn't carefully vet or say, well, there's a person of substance. So outside of pretty talk, as Ms. Williams would say, actions over excuses is not just a saying or a pretty talk like some politicians give. You can see her track record before and after F.O.D. as an active community empowerment ambassador and all the initiatives she has done. Online, you can find the manifesto for Ms. Williams, as well as the manifesto for Friends of Democracy. And that will be constantly updated because we understand that the manifesto has to include what Barbados needs every month, every year, unlike some other candidates that you're familiar with. So the point I'm trying to get is stop going for familiarity and step outside the box sometimes and wake up and realize that the children need to see a difference of people not being paid out like we were being done in times of slavery. Slavery has to start and stop with people taking money for everything. There's some things that you just should not be paid to do, because at the end of the day, you can't buy the character of the candidate. You have to pick people who already have the characteristics. And then you fund those people and you sponsor those people and you back those people so that you don't end up in a country full of debt and taxes that will never end because the people don't know how to take care of themselves because of the leadership that they're having. Yeah? So if Ms. Steffanie Williams could do it, you know that anybody else can do it and they will be heard. And their voices will be heard with the Friends of Democracy and Ms. Steffanie Williams. So as I said before, I urge you to vote for her and let familiarity become a thing of the past, because a lot of the issues we are having in society is a lack of accountability, which in the absence of accountability, there's abuse. And people are tired of being abused. And if we start here at the top of leadership to change that dynamic with the opposition, keeping the bees in check, we know for a fact that there will be a difference over time. As long as you give that opportunity, whether or not you do, your vote matters, your voice matters, and some people, when you elect them and you don't vote for them, they don't want to help you. That's not the case with Ms. Williams. She wants a better Barbados, whether or not you vote. So it's not just about getting votes, it's about you realizing that the youth have a impact on the tomorrow, and you gotta ask yourself and sit down and ask yourself, what's gonna happen if we're destroying the families, and the families are the foundation of society. The families make up society. And Ms. Williams' initiatives, as you will see online, and from her speech, is all about rebuilding the family, rebuilding trust in the leadership of Barbados, and making the difference that the youth need to see a better example and to see more hope for the future. So I will end by saying, whether or not you vote for Ms. Williams, she's here to serve, and you're in good hands, and you're safe with her. And I approve this message. Good night.
To vote for Steffanie Williams. That has been the common theme here. You heard the confidence from the young lady? Okay. Now, I introduce to you the social media personality, Steffanie Williams. She went to school at Sharon, which I also went to school at. She went to school at St. Leonard's, where I also went to school at. So, you know, yes, we representing. She had a commitment, and she began a book club back in 2012 called Free to Be Me. Love that. And Reach Out and Touch Our Children charity. She later earned the certification in child care and development in 2015. She has served in multiple leadership roles across school communities, including president, vice president, and secretary treasurer at Sharon Primary School, Lawrence T. Gay Memorial School, where she would have championed environmental improvements, student safety, and literacy, and even mentorship programs for at-risk youth. Williams has also held executive positions within the Ellerslie Secondary School PTA and the Queen's College. So, without further ado, I welcome you, Steffanie Williams.
Anya Lorde. Anya Lorde. Anya Lorde. Anya Lorde.
Keeping these in check, keeping these in check. No more sting on the people neck. We standing strong, we won't defect. Barbados rise up, show respect. Eh. Keeping these in check from St. Lucie straight down to St. Philip West. We guarding the highway ready. We said friends of democracy, keeping these in check. No more flying around the world while the islands stress.
Good night, good night, good night. I can't hear you. Good night. Good night to St. James North. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. As you can see, I'm standing on 2 blocks. I am that sure I needed 2 blocks to assist me. However, as I say, big things come in short packages. God is good. Good night to the executive members. Good night to Madam President. Good night to the constituents of St. James North. I want to make a special mention to the media, the journalists. You know, they're up before sunrise and sometimes sunrise meet them again. And sometimes persons do not know how hard it is to be in the line of work, which is the media. Yeah? So I want to big up you guys tonight, and I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you. So tonight, I'm going to be a little bit different than the way that I usually speak. And I usually speak from my heart, just like friend Andwele does. Yeah? And I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself and what has led me to be here today. Oftentimes, persons say, we ain't know nothing about she, where she come from. She ain't got no money. It's true, I ain't got none. But I have integrity. And I am a person who holds myself to accountability. If I say I'm going to do something, then I do it. Bottom line, period. That's just who I am. Now, I did not grow up with a gold spoon in my mouth. I didn't have any godfather, didn't have any godmother. You know, things was hard. Life was hard. And my mom, she's not a Barbadian. She's from St. Vincent. And she would have worked cotton cane in order to support her children. I know sometimes as children, we really do not value the effort, the time, the dedication that our parents put into ensuring that we eat, that we are comfortable, that we are safe, that we go to school, that we have the necessary things that we need. And when I was growing up, I remembered we didn't have any electricity. Things were hard, things were dread. But you know, from a very young age, I knew that God had a purpose for my life. I knew that I was different. And as I continued to grow, I got to understand why I was different. And due to me being different, that would have caused me to be separated from persons, because many of the times, persons do not understand you when you are different. Yeah? But God is good all the time. At 43 years old, I am proud of myself. I am proud because I did not allow any situation to be my final destination. I have risen above obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And I'm very motivated by negativity. Maybe that's bad, but it works for me. Negativity propels me forward, you know? And yeah, I'm proud of myself. And you know, when I would have run in the by-election last year, May, don't get tired of me saying that, but that was history in the making for me. So I must speak about it, and I must speak about it proudly. Now, like I said, I didn't come from a family, you know? So when I ran in the by-election, I remember my aunt in St. Vincent, she called me and she said, Steffi, we are so proud of you. My daughter wanted to do it, she didn't do it. You're the first in the family to do it. So that is legacy. That is legacy in the making. That is breaking generational curses. Many times people want you to believe that you cannot do things because. But I want to encourage everybody here tonight to understand something. When God says yes, anybody could say no. Man is not supposed to understand your calling. Man is not supposed to understand your purpose. But when God says yes, anybody can say no. Now, you know, usually I do a whole write-up before I come to speak. And then I end up not using anything that I would have written. And I'm often told that I speak better when I flow free. And I agree with that. And I want to also say that since I have joined the Friends of Democracy, and I have aligned with persons who have similar interests, I feel really privileged, if that is the word that I should use, to be a part of this family. And you know, it's not easy when you're with persons new. Any new environment, You know, you have to get to know persons. And me, I have a fiery attitude. I'm a fiery person. You know, I get real passionate and I get real, you know. But I love everyone. And I'm a genuine person. I want to big up Mr. Steve Blackett tonight. Big up Mr. Steve Blackett tonight, people. And, you know, everybody expects me to talk about everything that's going on in St. James North, potholes versus craters caused by climate change. However, big up the man, Mr. Blackett. When I was running in the by-election, right, before the election even happened, Mr. Blackett reached out to me. He said, Steffanie, when you're finished with the elections, give me a call. You understand? Before the election took place. And I was disobedient, you know. I was disobedient. I just seen. I had a partner, right? And my partner encouraged me to join the DLP. And I listened to my partner and I joined the DLP. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Because, right, this is why I come to talk about, but I go in by spirit. That was the biggest mistake of my life. Because when I study that persons are getting on platforms and they are speaking so eloquently about poor people and their plights and how they're so interested, it is a lie. It is not the truth. They need to start telling the truth of the fact that they do not like poor people. I am a housekeeper, but people like to say I work in the tourism industry. But I am a housekeeper though, and I am proud of the work that I do. I do exceptional work. You understand? Every guest I have had has left 1,000% good reviews. Notice I didn't say 100. And the owners came in last week and reviews, because that is me. Anything I set my mind to do, I do. And you know, when I joined them, I was in and still I was out. And inside of my mind, right, I just could not fathom why I was there. I cannot fathom why I was there. And you know the hurtful thing, I was canvassing St. James North. I speaking about it publicly because people speaking privately. I don't do that kind of thing. I just come out and address issues, right? I was canvassing St. James North, not knowing that there was somebody else canvassing too. But, you know, when you are in tune with the spirit, before people speak, you hear. That is why we got to be able to listen and know what voices we are hearing, right? And the way that they did things opened my eyes to the fact that, you see, politics is not a nice game. And I could say more. But if it's one thing that I can do in this election, and I will say boldly, I want to beat Charles Worrell. I want to beat Charles Worrell. I ain't hanging my hat low and I'm hanging it high. I am saying what it is I want to do. Because when people talk so big and so bold and has nothing to show for it, action over excuses. Nobody is entitled. I was totally walking off the street and you want to run in politics. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. You got people in politics for years and have done nothing for the people. People can't find them. As we hear the president say, the phone numbers change. Can't get through to them. That is wrong. You understand? The phone ain't working. That is wrong. Right? And I just want to say to the constituents of St. James North, I have won already. So let there be no mistake. I have won already. And I will continue my work in St. James North as I continued it after the by-election in 2025. Now let's get down to some of the meat of the matters, right? Now when we speak about healthcare in Barbados, we go straight to the QEH hospital. And Barbadians I have come to recognize, we eat and forget. When our stomachs are filled, we forget the number of things that have been done to us. And we are in a season where we should not forget the mistreatment. When you see people lying on a hospital floor in 2026, you have to ask yourself, what is going on? After borrowing money, and then you have people lying on the floor, and then you have people coming in trying to cover it up, that people weren't lying on the floor. My eyes work very well. I saw people lying on the floor. And that is sad in 2026. You know, oftentimes persons will wish that advocates would shut their mouths, don't talk, watch people do things and have nothing to say. So we have two political scientists in Barbados saying that because of the advocates who are now entering the political arena, the integrity system needs to be in place. Or let me use a big word, implemented. Now you mean the time they got so much teeth in going on for so long, and they may know integrity legislation should be in place? You wait till there people like myself and Dominique Yorke and Orlando and Anya, y'all can wait till we come in to decide that something needs to be put in place? That is crazy. Make it make sense. Huh? I heard a man say the other day, people walking about and talking about potholes and roads want fixing. Then the only thing people talking about the $60 million that missing. We want to know where the $60 million gone. Am I correct with that figure? That's what we want to know. A lot of petty issues coming on the platforms and talking about. No, they can't carry down the cost of living. Friends of Democracy would have, shared their policy about removing the 17.5% VAT at all ports of entry and the 17.5% VAT at the retail outlets. And we are hearing, that can't happen. That makes sense too. But you can offer people, is it $5,000 for children born after 2021? Where that money came from? If the cost of living cannot go down to give Bajans an ease from the squeeze, where is all of this money coming from? You increasing pensions. It's really get me upset. This foot-in-net politics. It's like, when you picture it, right, it's like somebody got the foot in your net, right? They know that you want them to remove the foot, but they ain't doing it. They want to see you start to foam at the mouth. They want you to be putting your last breath before they say, all right, let me stop. This is the kind of politics that's being practiced in Barbados. Because these persons know that Bajans hungry, let me be real, are you hungry too? Are you hungry for better? I'm hungry for change. Huh? I am hungry because it seems like people do not understand that we are humans. We deserve better. Good representation should be accessible. Good representation should know that they are accountable to the people, not the other way around. We see politicians walking around like they hire the people. We hire one. Y'all work for us. We don't work for one. That is why you all are seeing advocates coming into the political arena and voicing their concerns about the stupidity of some of you. And then you all get on the platforms and pump a set because you all think that people forget. Now, if I had a child in school at Spring Memorial School, right, I would have run through the school. I'm being honest tonight. Because a lot of times we've got things inside of us, right, and we don't say it. But I would have run through the school or run through the Ministry of Education. Because how dare you? How dare you send people with machetes and guns to traumatize people's children? I have parents calling my phone. Steffanie, my daughter was on her way to school, and for some reason, her menstrual came and she went back home. Steffanie had to take my daughter to the doctor because she was so traumatized. Steffanie. When I tell you, them things is right. Our children are our legacies, and it's about time that Barbadians understand, right? You see, when people feel like they could come and buy you, you are telling persons right there and then your worth. You have to ask yourself, Barbadians, what is your worth? What is your value? There may be some that you could go and give them $10 and that suits them. Another $500, $250, a shirt and a hat, and that suits them. But I want Barbadians to understand something. We need an opposition in this country. We are not dealing with no more 30 love. You need people to agitate and advocate on your behalf. When they go into parliament and they bring legislations that sound so stupid, listen, for the last couple of months, these people were bringing legislations that sound so stupid they can't understand. If you see police over there getting saying they call you are going to help them, or you ain't get charged $10,000 or a year in prison or both. Make it make sense. Ain't making no sense. And it's get real. I can try to control my passion tonight. Because they did a video for the AG, and they had let him know Steffanie Williams will not be doing that, so lock me up now. I will always be a voice for the voiceless. Always. I keep telling people, poverty pushed me into politics, but it also pushed me into purpose. At the age of 21, I had a vision. You get me in politics. I was like, what? What politics? What? These people didn't have no behavior. No behavior they don't have. And I separated myself from politics. I didn't listen into it. Nothing. I remember I was working at MTW. I think it was in 2021, 2022. And the representative for St. Thomas, when she came around, she told the MTW workers, try and go and vote here. Try and go and vote or when they got no job. Well, let me tell you something. Vote DLP that year. I voted DLP that year because I could not understand the madness to what she was saying. And you see, when people know that you're hungry, right? And they don't say it in a bad way, you know. But we got to be honest. People living paycheck to paycheck. That's being hungry. When you got to choose between paying your bill and buying food, that's people being hungry. What other people gonna buy $4,000 bottles of wine and eating caviar? Right now they're standing in Westmoreland, but I call the number. I know. Taxpayers' money. I was working in Westmoreland, you can't stay in there, but you're using taxpayers' money to stay in Westmoreland. Then again, I might be getting ahead of myself. Right? And a lot of things just caused me to be so concerned. And it seems like Barbadians think that representation comes big, pun intended, and with money. It does not. When we see, what is it that she has said? When you see something, say something. That is what we were told. When we see something, say something. But have you all realized that when you see something and you say something, they tell you to shut up? Put up or shut up. They tell you to shut up and they have no shame. They just tell you to shut up. I have a problem with that. Now, I must really say that the Barbados Police Service is doing an excellent job. I know the issue with crime in Barbados, nobody cannot solve it. I will not tell you the AG can solve crime. I will not do it. But what I can tell you is if the cost of living comes down, if poverty drops instead of rising, crime will come. You understand? You can't got men out here hungry and think that they can sit down and be hungry. They can look for food. Make it make sense. You can imagine a young man like this cameraman here with a sweet thing. I can see that. And he ain't working away. Or the cut he hours or the cut he days. And she nails do though. Or she want outfit to go on a cruise. And he can't get shit. Make it make sense. He can either find a way to give her or another man is going to give her. That is the bottom line. And we have to understand the place that we are today in Barbados. We cannot afford to sugarcoat the, as Mr. Blackett say, guarantee meeting the matter. Huh? get to the meaty matter. Start behaving like y'all don't know what the issues are. Start coming on platforms and just behaving like people do not understand what you are doing. You are trying to manipulate big people. I am 43 years old and proud. I am 43 years old and I am proud. But one thing I cannot stand is when people try to make me believe that what I see is not what it is. You have 30 MPs who were elected to office. And my God, what have some of them shown for it? I ain't saying all, because a lot of people like KH, right? I being mindful of calling persons' names, but a lot of people like KH or AM, right? But we have to deal with reality. One set of people can't be eating and the other set hungry. You got to balance the skills. And this is something that Barbadians need to understand. You may tell yourself, you know what, my MP has helped me and you don't care them but nobody else. But listen, you see after these elections, you see a lot of you all who putting on your favorite color shirt and hat. You're going to see a different going down after elections. And I say that proudly because I know. Now let us talk about the disabled, right? I love the elderly, I love the youths, and I love the disabled people. They do something to me. They touch me deep in my heart. Now I heard a lady speaking the other day, and she had me so disturbed. Or is it perturbed? I want to call the wrong word. But she had me disturbed. And she made mention of the opposition. She didn't call friends of democracy, but we ain't foolish. We know who she meant. Right? And she went on to say that we are naive. I embrace my naiveness. Wholeheartedly, I embrace it. But she did say that when she went in, she was also naive. And you know, I would say that sometimes things present themselves and you believe that you can deal with it until you actually have to deal with it. So I will never be a person who comes and say the government do everything that was wrong. They have not. They have not done everything that was wrong, but they have dropped the ball. They have forgotten the people down here. It is friends and family and family and friends. That is what is going on. That is the reality. If we do not want change for ourselves, people will continuously treat us the way that they are treating us. You know, President Karina, when she gets a little hot and passionate, she speaks a little loud. And you know, you have persons come and say, oh, she's shouting. But you got people on platform setting and shouting that when I want to happy, I want to laughing, I want to get the message. So if some person is saying to you, this is the change that needs to come, and they are passionate in delivering what they are saying, what is the difference? Some people like bad treatment. Maybe that's it. Maybe some people just like bad treatment. I don't like bad treatment, though. I am tired of bad treatment. And listen, right? I remember in 2024, I'm going to share a story with you all. In 2024, I had a miscarriage. I did a TikTok with this. And the amount of females that messaged me. You see, whenever I do a video, it's not about me. It is about impacting other persons out there and helping them to come to a place of understanding and healing. We need to stop walking around feeling shame about situations. We need to start holding on to the things that would have caused us pain. When we dwell in what we have experienced, the negativity, we stay in that position. In order to elevate, in order to move forward, in order to get different, you have to do different. You have to accept this is what has happened, decide how you're going to deal with it, and move on. I remembered I went to St. Thomas Speaks. The Spirit just told me, go on. I can't even remember how it was dressed, but it went. And when they get there, it was like, you, how are you going to speak in this forum? This is crazy. I should have stayed home. But you know, right? I had my mind made up that change needed to come. Because many nights I lay down in my chair and I stare at the ceiling, feeling suicidal though. Yeah, I felt like ending it all. The pain of loss just push you to a place where you believe that you cannot deal with the situation. But I want to say to you guys tonight, you see, God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And I didn't preach like some people, because a lot of people might get delivered tonight. Because it will be fire, right? And I spoke at St. Thomas Speaks. And you know what? Well, Parliament dissolved, so it's no longer Prime Minister. Should I say Prime Minister? Okay, good. Thank you for that. And the Prime Minister was there, and the outgoing AG. And when I finished delivering my speech, the Prime Minister, she called me back. She said, Miss Williams, come back here. She said, you were eloquent in your delivery. She said, the people here can learn something from you. And it didn't grow my head. I appreciated her comment. And you know what that did for me? That helped me to catch back myself and remember who I am. And I have not stopped from 2024. I ran in the by-elections. Now I'm running in a general election, which persons did not think I would do. And I'm telling you all of this so that you can have a better understanding of who Steffanie is. When I put my mind to do something, I do it. I do it. Actions over excuses. When I hear about 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds on robbery charges, murder, do people really understand the state that Barbados is in? The children are our future. And if we are losing our young men, that should be of great concern to all of us. Great concern. Every time someone is killed, that should make you feel away. Every time a youth ends up in prison, that should make you feel away. I'm not going to debate if the right or the wrong. It says that we have failed. It says that something has gone wrong. And we need to put radical things in place to help pull back our youths. I am very passionate about our youths. When I have my book club in schools, Free to Be Me book club, the name speaks for itself. Free to be me. Embracing who you are. A lot of our young people do not know who they are. A lot of young persons are walking around trying to figure out where they have come from, where they're doing the things that they are doing. A lot of people say it is because of the single parent home, the father is missing. That is a contributing factor. However, we have to be more intentional when it comes to our young people. I want to say to you all tonight, endorse the Friends of Democracy's manifesto. We didn't steal it from anybody. We came up with it on our own. Well, they joined the party after, but they came up with it on their own. Yeah? And it's easy to have promises being made that sound sweet. But are they viable? Will they materialize? When I think about people, and when I think about St. James North, I think about community empowerment. When you empower people in the way that they need empowering, their lives change. Everybody needs something different. You may be able to go to Caroline and talk to her about equity. She's a very bright young lady. But you can't come to me and talk to me about that. You want to send me to learn that, because I ain't pretending. But for me, when I think about people, I think about How can it help single mothers to understand that despite the man not supporting the child, you have a responsibility to that child to ensure that you instill good values and good principles and you discipline them. A father not being in the house is no excuse. Parents, we need to take accountability as well. We are not in a season where we can pass off the blame. We are not. There are persons who say the young people didn't want to work. That is a lie. That is a lie. I met a young man, and he would have said to me, Miss Williams, I'm working for one of the top people in Barbados. And when I got my vacation pay the other day, he didn't even know how to spend it. And the thing about it, this young man is in his 20s, right? And this young man wanted to cry. I know he wanted to cry. We have to deal with the meat of the matters, and we have to understand that the young people have things on their minds. We need to listen. It may not always seem like the talking stuff was sense, but we need to listen so we understand where they are coming from. If we do not understand where they are coming from, how can we put things in place to help them? We're going to make it make sense. All this pretty talk that people talking, all these big initiatives. We have big initiatives from 2018. We have big initiatives from 2018. If you all remember, those persons who ran in 2018, it was their first time out of the box. You hear the boy making noise with them? But everybody want to cry down friends of democracy when they're ready yet. We more than ready. If we ain't ready, we won't be here. But we are here. We're ready. And we are green. You know what green mean? Ready to go. You ever stop in front of a stoplight? When you see red, it's time you stop. As the little child said today, yellow means slow down. So please take the advice. Yellow means to slow down. Green means to go. We will not stop. We will agitate. We will advocate for, and we will pursue programs for the betterment of Barbadians. So we are not going anywhere. We are here to stay. And for all those persons who have it in their minds that we're going to break up after the elections, the only thing we're breaking is a leg. And I don't mean it literally, because when elections finish, we're having a big celebration because we did not come this far to turn back. We did not come this far to listen to naysayers. Null and void is the opinions of people who do not see the positivity that we are bringing. Null and void. I want to touch on just 2 more issues because it's getting late and outside real cold. But I'm feeling warm. When they start to talk, it just feel, privatization of transport board. That rubbed me the wrong way. How dare you? How is it that you fathom in your mind that this was a good idea? The most vulnerable, again, the elderly, the disabled, are students. When you privatize transport board, right? And these people tell themselves, well, you know what? That van is going down in Rotterdam, but I don't feel Rotterdam can bring the money that I wanted to bring. That service done. Just like they stop the bus from going up in dark hole just so blam. How is doing things? That's crazy. Make it make sense. Seriously. Now, persons also know that I do a lot of advocating for the PSVs, the music, the sexual and violent inciting music on PSVs. And I have said in all of my videos, I'm not blaming all of the PSV workers, but we got to come to a place, though, where we can be honest and say, listen, we need a radical pullback. We can't just sit back and be like, all right, we ain't saying nothing. We had a mass casualty with Leicester Vaughan students on the 20th of October 2025. And you would have thought that when persons said we're going to do something, that something was done. I got in a van yesterday, and they can't call in words in the microphone because it was everything explicit and sexual. And it was like, what? Listen, sometimes they travel on the van, and when they get halfway, the way going to step off, I said, listen, open the door, let me get out. Last thing, conductor asked me for money. I said, thank you for the ride, and they got off the van because they didn't understand. That didn't make sense to me. It's like we need to honestly understand that, yes, the PSV sector plays a vital role. Transportation is very important. We respect all of the operators, but there's a minority that needs to take more consideration. They need to make safety a priority. When that guy was thrown from the bus and died, I cannot do a video with that because they took into consideration how his family felt. Grief is not something that you get over in 2 days or in 2 hours. Yeah? But we really have to find ways to do things, not that you want to offend people, but if offending persons must happen, then offend them, because it can be the difference between saving 500 lives. You can't be afraid to make hard decisions. Yeah? And I honestly believe that students should have their own transportation to and from schools. If we are saying that we are so concerned about students and the way that they're behaving so deviant, then we need to get certain things in order. The grooming policy, as I continuously say, needs to be pulled back. It needs to be put in the garbage like some of those legislations that they try to pass. When you see our youth on the road, spongy, they hear some of them, the hearing properly, the pants tight, like they need to go and give blood. I don't know who school them is be going in. School is a place of learning. School is a place of learning. And this is not me blaming the government, but parents, your children don't work anywhere. Your children don't walk in in a beds or so in world and say, I want this amount of material and pay for it. We got to do better, parents. We can't allow people to come and tell us, well, you know, this is okay and that is okay. And we just go along with it like it is all right. No, we cannot do that. All of us have to check ourselves. And I'm going to finish on this note, right? I was going to finish before, but I'm going to finish now. You see, they deserve better, for real. Our policemen deserve better. How can you pay a police officer $20-something extra an hour? That sounds crazy. And then you ask why persons are not willing to join the police force. That is not fair. It is wrong. Some officers are still waiting on the medal and the $500 from COVID. That is wrong. That is not good. Officers do not receive a hazard allowance. Y'all can believe that? The way how crime done in Barbados, then she began hazard allowance, then she began insurance, then she began so much benefits. Because being a police right now means that you're putting your life in danger. You need to take care of the police officers. We need to do better. We need to do better in this 21st century. Living from paycheck to paycheck. And then you want them to walk about and run down criminals. If it was a police officer to walk in, that criminal will run and go about his business or she business. Because there's no way running behind nobody and the police don't no gun to shoot at me. And I ain't got no health insurance. I ain't got nothing. Anything happen to me, I got to spend my money. And then what? That's crazy. That don't make no sense. They got to do better, have to do better. They have to do better. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to me tonight. And I want to say, for all of those persons whose names may not be on the voters list, I'm not encouraging anybody to riot. But when you got a valid Barbados ID card, though, go to your polling station. Mr. Blackett, are you wrong for saying that? Go to your polling station. You have a valid ID card that you could go in the bank and get money. You could go and get a loan and you can't vote. That is crazy. That does not make any sense in 2026. I met a lady who she's been here for 3 years and her name is not on the voters list, but she got a Barbados ID card. What is really going on? You got living people listed dead and dead people listed living. Something is not right. Something is not right. Barbadians, we can no longer be a people who just sit down and watch things happen and say nothing. This is not the age or the era that we are in. We have to be able to stand up and speak out. What is it that you're afraid of? If they got me hungry now, then you got me hungry after. That is the truth. When I better learn to fast. When I better learn to fast. Because if certain people get in, I know enough of we get me hungry. Enough of us get me hungry. I want to think that the gentleman was making sport. I want to think he was making sport, but he was telling you all who he is. When you get here upset, when they get the food, like, we just listen to people and think it's a joke. I'm a very serious woman. I don't laugh at a lot of things. So when you get me to laugh, you know, yeah. But I sit down and I dissect what people say because there'll be a lot more behind what a person says. I see Orlando watching me. But I want Orlando to know that I'm in St. James North. I am in St. James North, Orlando. You got to love me. I will be wrapping up. I want to thank everyone for coming out. You know, the rain is falling. It's getting late. I appreciate you all. The young lady here at the shop, I thank her for allowing us to use the establishment. She did not have to do it, but she has done it, and I appreciate that. And I just want to wish everyone well. And again, whatever happens in this elections, I beat into bias world, but whatever happens in the elections, I am in St. James North. My manifesto, as Caroline would have said, is out there. You guys can peruse it. Anyone who wants to work with me, I am willing. It is people over politics every time. Actions over excuses every time. And we will continue to keep the bees in check. Have a good night.
St. James North, that is your representative. You heard her. She's out here to advocate for you and to bring positive changes. The young people, they need representation. And one thing that I would add, if the young people do not know, Barbadian people are of God. From the time they took God out of school, society has become problematic. We need to get back God in the schools and get children back on the right path. Have to say that. No, I speak to bring forth now our president, Karina Goodridge. This young lady, she needs little introduction. She will be the next Prime Minister of Barbados. She's a dedicated wife and a top-class lawyer. She God-fearing and she fearless, especially in these times where fear is abundant in Barbados. She's not afraid to speak out on behalf of Barbadians. And I would advise you to take heed to the things that she said. She took charge to be the voice of change and to be a shining example for young ladies to aspire and to become the next Prime Minister of Barbados. I give to you, Karina Goodridge.
truth. People waking up from the long time snooze, no more ball and talk. Time to inspect the whole life shaking when we keeping these in check. Keeping the bees in check. No more sting on the people neck. We standing strong, we won't defect. Barbados rise up, show respect. Eh. Keeping the bees in check from St. Lucie straight down to St. Philip.
As one, hands to the work, the new day's begun. Voices of courage, hearts full of flame. We're building a future in the.
All right, good night.
From Christchurch.
Good night. How are you doing? Everybody good, everybody fine. It's all nice. We're all in the rain, but we're still happy because we are alive. And the friends of democracy are outside. And I want to thank each and every one of you who are here. As per usual, every time I take the mic, I get the blessing of rain. And that is a good thing. That is a good sign that we are outside and we are in the rain and we are F.O.D. posse. So I want to, first of all, thank all the speakers tonight. You are doing a wonderful job, and you always bring the truth to the people, and you always bring your authentic self. And that is key and important when Barbados can see the authenticity of each individual who speaks and who holds the mic. And I want you to support the candidate here for St. James North, Miss Steffanie Williams. I see her growth. I see her boldness. She's working so hard, even in going on TikTok and making sure that she advocates for people at all times in different districts. And one thing is sure, she decided that no matter what the outcome of the by-election was, she wanted to stay the course for St. James North. So that is commendable, and I want you all to give her a special round of applause. So thank you. We are in election mode, Barbados, and as I canvass, there are many individuals who are stating that there are many discrepancies with the voters' list. And of course, people want to exercise their democratic right, and they want to be sure that they can trust the election process. And I know that we are in a season where, for the first time in Barbados, we'll be having some independent observers on the island. But one thing is sure, there are persons in the districts who are saying that dead people are appearing alive on the list, and who are alive, some of them are listed as deceased. Further to that, persons are not even sure where they still have to vote. I'm even hearing from different candidates that they are still not hearing their returning officer. And really and truly, the returning officers in the country are supposed to be calling the candidates and ensuring that everything is in order. Further to that, I believe that in Barbados, we shall have the fixed elections because some of the public servants have already gone to vote, and yet still we're not going to get the updated list, the voters' list, until Monday. And we need the voters' list because as we are in that election rush, there are people who will need that list in order to properly and effectively canvass. Also, one of the concerns of the people is the fear that votes really should be counted where the people vote right there at the same station, because they want to ensure that there was no meddling or anything with those boxes. So Barbados, as you have asked Friends of Democracy to be the voice for you, we will voice our voice to the nation to state that, look, in Barbados, to ensure that the playing field is fair, we propose that the next time around, there should be a fixed term election. We are tired of when one mass party tries to take the advantage, that is given to them, of course, to choose the minimum time period. I know some of you will say, but the other party should be prepared and they should prepare themselves. But when you really look at all of the discrepancies that have been occurring and recognize that the Electoral and Boundaries Commission are really not prepared, you have to ensure that you get a fair election so you get the fair outcome. So all of these things we have to tidy up in Barbados so that people can exercise their democratic rights. So I have to get that out of the way. Now, even as I'm here, we are in the dark. And that is a classic example why people need an opposition. Because although this may seem like a minor thing, there are many residents in this country that are complaining about lighting and the street lights. And that is something that would take a simple letter being written on the residents' behalf to state that there needs to be lighting in this area and in many other areas in Barbados where people are in darkness. So if somebody's walking the street in the dark and some motorists come up and they can't see them, then that's a life that is at risk. A youngster would have reached out to me, and I'm talking about serious issues tonight. And that youngster, I want them to be watching tonight because what they are basically saying is, hey, based on the accidents that take place with young children around the schools, they are advocating that there be speed limit signs put around certain schools and that limit be lowered so that when motorists are in certain areas near the schools, that the child's life is not at risk. I recognize with the present government that something always has to happen in order for them to put certain measures and policies in place. But the time for that should be gone. Because I remember reading an article when the minister, Mr. Chad Blackman, was saying that they will ensure that they have a policy for the safety of those young school children when there was a child, a minor, who had got knocked down, and thankfully that child did not pass away. I didn't see it as a major thing in the recent BLP manifesto, but I know that it is a concern for the parents. They want to ensure that their child is safe and that motorists are reminded that when you are driving near the school, to please drive with caution and drive slowly. And that is why I continue to remind Barbadians that you need the right policies and measures in place. It helps people to comply with the law. So another issue also I will bring to the public is that a lot of school children here in the country are actually scared and they are asking for more security officers to be placed at the schools because they recognize that some schools only have one guard. And if you have 500 plus students at a school, that is not sufficient for any guard to have to monitor and supervise an entire place like that. So government has to be constantly thinking about the measures that should be put in place. I know that they would have increased guards, but right now in Barbados, I can reassure you that sometimes at some schools, you only have one guard place, and then The children, some of them, the disobedient ones, will get into fights and what's not. The fight occurs and the guard hasn't even reached the scene yet where the fight is taking place. So that is another matter that needs tidying up in the country. And these are things that MPs should be bringing to the public when they are standing and speaking on behalf of residents and their constituencies and standing in Parliament. They should be advocating for you. So when people are asking themselves, why would you need Friends of Democracy? I take the mic tonight to remind you why you need Friends of Democracy. On the grounds, many people are complaining about the fuel tax. The high prices you pay for fuel here in Barbados. At one point in time, in 2025, it was in May, just for gasoline, a liter was $3.95, $3.95. It has only come down now to $3.77. But you pay high fuel prices in this country without any real explanation. And even when the global prices have dropped, you end up still paying high prices for fuel. And the prices, I am stating on behalf of the nation, are many a time exploitative, unjust, and unfair to the public. Take, for instance, we pay some of the highest fuel prices in the world, more than Trinidad and more than Jamaica. And I wrote articles on this, you know, because our government pays the same fuel price as other countries in the region. And yet our prices are way higher when they reach the consumer. So imagine Barbados. When they reach you, the fuel prices are still up in the air, skyrocketing. So the government imposed a tax on fuel that is paid if you buy gas for your weed whacker, if you buy gas for the boat, you are still paying a high price. And that is why you need opposition in the nation. That is another reason. Because you need somebody that's going to ask, but why is the country paying this high price? Explain it to us. Why is it we are paying the highest in comparison to all the other Caribbean territories? We have to really make things make sense when we are the ones who have to pay the high prices. Because in this country, either you don't like money enough, because whenever the government is taking away your money, you should be asking all the necessary questions. Right now, even the electricity bills are very high, and you are seeing the reports on that. So we are continuously having to take money out of our pocket, and I am convinced, and I am here to remind you, that this is why Barbados needs to really have some serious investment plans. Serious investment planning. I saw the Barbados Labour Party manifesto, and I would have recognized that they were talking about it is a child wealth, a Barbados Republic Child Wealth Fund. And in that fund, you will get a one-time government investment, and that is for the amount of $5,000. And already on the ground, people are asking a lot of questions about it. Number one, they are asking, what if my child dies before they reach 18? Would the money then pass to the mother? Another question is, if people who are foreign come to this country and they have a baby here, because obviously if you're born after the 30th of November 2021, you are entitled. So they're wondering then, if that individual, that baby, is born by a foreign person, then how that entitlement works, especially if a lot of foreign people decide to just fly here and have babies, and then our government, of course, is giving away the money all the time. Right? So there are questions on the ground for those concerns, and Barbadians want the answer. Because, of course, there are still questions, too, about children now who has so many things that are important that needs money to supply in terms of, say they need the support. They need the money before they become 18. And of course, it's a trust fund, but they want to know, people on the ground, how is this really going to work? So there are a lot of questions about that particular policy. And of course, we as Barbadians will want to know how does the Barbados Labour Party always find ways and reasons to give money when they feel like and how they feel like. But then, when a party like us says, take the VAT off of food, there's always some question about it. You can't take VAT off of food, but then you will talk about taking up millions to fund a program for a church. And then people want to know, okay, why it is then that they can't take the VAT off of food. Because obviously we've been advocating and saying that if the VAT comes off of food, that eases the burden off of the hard cost of living for the people. Because people don't want to be going to the market all the time and have a high bill. They want to ensure that they get an ease. Bajans here also complain about the sewage tax, and I can understand because they have no connection with a sewage plant. And then you're telling them, look at your water bill and you see tax. So then we have to ensure that the prices that we are paying, all of these taxes are actually making sense. You can't just comply with some legislation that doesn't make sense and allow the government to just implement whatever idea they come up with to then make you have to pay extra money. You have no connection to a sewage plant, but yet still you have to pay out taxes all the time. Just like at the pumps. When you go for gas, all the excise and levies on there, my God, you pay more in taxes than even what you get in gasoline. Seriously. Our policy is, and I'll read it for you, no solid waste tax on unserviced properties. We are saying that the solid waste tax will only apply to the properties serviced by the existing sewage treatment plants or those households that will subsequently be attached to any new sewage treatment facility. We are advocating that it's unfair and unjust that households not using sewage treatment plants be charged or levied for a service they are not receiving. And on the grounds, people are happy with this policy. Because at the end of the day, why on earth you Bajans want to pay for something that you are not receiving? And this is why we in this country should be marching the streets. Because here we are, new party, July of 2025, and we are advocating for you on the grounds that are saying, why are we paying a sewage tax in Barbados? Half of the things that we are paying for do not make sense. A government is just not there to operate, to implement anything on you that is just unfair and unjust. What they implement should actually make sense. So you who have no connection to any sewage plant, You are paying for that tax. You are working earnestly and hard every day. You have to go to a workplace. You have to work hard to keep your job. And then you have to deal with paying all of these taxes. So when you see us out here, we advocating to remove these taxes as such. I remind the government that we are not saying that government is to be broke. They find money for what they want to find things for, money for. So we are saying get better investment plans. The other night I was speaking and I was talking about medical tourism, because I know that in Barbados it can be done. You need to have the ideas that can work in the country. When I talk about medical tourism, you can imagine people can come here for surgeries, for operations, if we just build up that state-of-art hospital. This is how you get people to have more jobs. This is a reason we need this, because we need the foreign investment in the country. Put it simple. So I put it simple for you that medical tourism is not coming out of the mouth of the Barbados Labour Party, but it is an idea that I know can bring wealth in the country. It is an idea that can give more nurses a job, more doctors a job. It is an idea that can help the country when it comes to brain drain and people leaving to find better opportunities. So I want our country to explore that idea. Because many times when we come with ideas, people get and say, oh, but they are the group that say that they just want to be in opposition. And I told you they would advocate and they would say, don't vote for opposition, because if you vote for opposition, you are going to vote in the government. And I'm telling you that they are telling you to be afraid of change, be afraid of trying something new with a clean slate, be afraid of trying Friends of Democracy. That is what they're trying to tell you. But we know that there's need for accountability in the country, and we know that there's need for transparency in the country. And that is something you have been robbed of. You have been robbed of getting the answers that you need. You have been robbed of the government bringing the figures that you have requested. Because many times, there are people in this country who have been asking about what happened to the whole project funds with millions missing. And still you don't know. Still you have no clue. There are many times where we take the mic and we have been asking what happens to QEH with all of the taxpayers' money going into it, and yet still, after all the funds going into it, still not sufficient resources. And that is why we say no to any mismanagement in the country. No to waste. No to lack of oversight. That is why, Barbados, you need someone who's going to stand in Parliament. You need them also for the April budget that is coming up to ask how was the spending? How were people paid? We cannot stand as a citizen and not have the answers. We need to know. So our first policy that I read to you was that for the sewage tax. And I also want to remind the pensioners that we also have a pension tax there. Not a pension tax, sorry, a pension policy for you, where we are advocating that pensioners have already given their best, and we want to give them the golden handshake and say, hey, we reassure you that 67% of your pension should not be taxed. It should not be. Let it be 33% at least, because we want more money to go into your pockets. And this is a policy that can help many pensioners, you know, because there are pensioners in the nation who have actually told me that they didn't even know that taxes were still coming out. So we are here to bring awareness to the public. And we are here also to bring ideas for the betterment of Barbados. We're not just here to promote the BLP on any platform like James Paul. Because some of them making y'all feel that is a mistake when they say vote Barbados Labour Party, but we know that all of them is the same thing. And that is why we are offering to you another option. All of them making the mistake, the so-called mistake, saying vote Barbados Labour Party. When we know it's a trick, because it's probably not a mistake at all. They know exactly what they're doing because all is the same thing. And that is why on the street, people are saying they are fed up with all two and they want something new. They want to see new candidates on the ground. And I think that the next election is going to send a strong message. This one coming, 11th of February. As long as candidates keep pushing on the ground and keep working, I believe that history will be created in this nation without an apology. Because both parties have complained about all two being involved in corruption, and yet still they have them mixed up. It's like if they're drinking some BLP Kool-Aid. Because as soon as you get the Kool-Aid, you start to talk good about the Barbados Labour Party from the time you get in the party. You sipping the same Kool-Aid now, so you speaking the language. But you see, friends of democracy don't have time with that kind of nonsense. We come out here to deal with serious business because we recognize that people's lives matter. I can assure you, I have walked in this nation and the things that I say, my God, I see why there's so much voter apathy. So many issues with roads wanting to be fixed. People want the minister to actually acknowledge that through their gap needs some speed bumps just to slow down the motorists so that the children don't have to go out there and run in the road and get knocked down. Simple matters. But you can't get a representative. As you have heard, I said, sometimes when they're elected, the phone was working, and then it don't be working no more. And that is the problem in the country, is that the same ministers, if they're saying that they are too busy, need to put people on the grounds. They need to remind people that they are thankful to be elected and they are going to work on their behalf. So many issues, as I've said, in constituencies occur in Barbados. Apart from the lighting, there are people who are crying out about housing. And that is why I push our housing policy, because I know that there are many residents who wish to be homeowners, but because of the bracket they fall in terms of salary, many cannot afford. Many do not pass the requirements. And that is why you need that rent-to-own policy with the 100% mortgages with no deposit. Because we all know that sometimes with our poor salaries, that you just cannot afford even a simple deposit. So you need help. You need the policies and the incentives there for you that would help. Not a government now that will pass a bill like the tourism accommodation bill, and then they have to double back because people have to find some issue with it, with them to actually start to scrutinize the same legislation that they should have looked at. Okay, you pass a piece of legislation without totally scrutinizing it and looking at every clause. And then when the public has to push back and say, oh no, but these are draconian measures here in this tourism accommodation bill. How could a small business have to comply with such measures? And then now they have to jump back and say, oh. When consultation with the right people should have been in place in the first place. And that is something that is really lacking in Barbados. True consultation, true hearing the voice of the people. They are not taking time. This is not time for Russia to be in Barbados. Everything is a rush. Everything is a simple rush. And then you're raised like, I want people to recognize how important it is to pass a piece of legislation. Because I have said on the platforms before that you need groundbreaking legislation, pieces of legislation that make sense. When a piece of legislation is passed, it should be transformative. It should be one that would change lives of people in a positive way. We all know that some pieces of legislation, yes, can be punitive, and you have to have certain pieces of legislation that will have fines, to comply with the law. But many a time you can use legislation to transform people's lives. And that is why you need people in government that are thinkers and are understanding that the pieces of legislation that should be passed should be to resolve a number of social issues and for a wide scale of people, not just a few people. So when you look at that same bill that I just mentioned with the tourism accommodation bill, you will recognize that nothing in there is saying about concessions, nothing there to provide for the people, the small businessman. I'm convinced, honestly, that government is so focused on just the admission that we want money. And it can't be just on we want money, because there are women in this country who suffer every day. And apart from the National Organization of Women, you don't really look on social media and see a lot of advocating for women. There needs to be more of that. Because at the end of the day, women carry a lot of weight. They are the child bearers. They prepare children for the future. As a matter of fact, women are the first teachers for children. So we can't be forgetting women. Because at the end of the day, every woman that has to go into a workplace and have a menstrual cramp that is so painful or suffering from endometriosis, that woman deserves better. That woman would deserve a work from home day, a remote day when she's going through her problems. These are social issues. This is not a one-woman issue. And this is the problem. When government recognizes that there are issues that are shared socially, that is when they should be then conceptualizing the proper policies. That is when they need to maximize thoughts concerning what could be implemented to better the lives of the people. Not squandering and trying to fight friends of democracy when simply we're just here to develop and help with the development of Barbados. Because that is actually our mission. When we say we come to agitate and develop and pursue programs and policies for the betterment of Barbados. And I remind you, Barbados, every time you are wondering why friends of democracy, please remember transparency. Please remember accountability, because those two words carry weight. And I hope that you're not tired of hearing me saying that, because at the end of the day, you cannot allow dictatorship. 30 seats really is a message to say one government controls everything. Every decision, everything that is changed in the nation will fall in the hand of that one government, all management and all control. So when they have to make some decision that you're not pleased with, like the tent law, there's no man standing on the other side to say, hey, that tent law does not solve the crime. There's no man standing on the other side to say that tourism accommodation bill has too many draconian measures. There's no man standing on the other side to say for wiretapping, when the same government breaks the law, what happens next? Because they admitted that they were tapping your phones before any legislation was passed to allow the wiretapping on your phone. And I don't want Barbadians to be sleeping, because I will remind you that we do not want a government that has those full 30 seats to have all control and all management. And as a matter of fact, if Friends of Democracy, or should I say when Friends of Democracies win a seat, we are actually helping the same BLP government, because every leader knows that some of their own soldiers sometimes just try to take them out. And there are people from over there that would like to cross over as the election pass. Some of them planning, Some of them planning to run over Because that is how Barbados actually got an opposition right now, the one seat from Ralph Thorne. He got it because he crossed over. He didn't get it because it was truly democratic and the people voted him in. When he was voted in, he was a B. So if Mayor Motley actually wants help, we will help her because we will make sure that her troops stay where they are and we will take the opposition seat. We don't have a problem with that. We are ensuring that there will be no crossover. We take the seats and we solve the problem for Madame. Clear, straight, clear cut. Because I know that they're not thinking about that, but I hope that CBC will take that part. Because I want them to know we are always here to help. That is why we are here for. Friends of democracy. So Barbados, do not give this government another 30 seats. Because we know that the lifespan of the DLP is not one where they are breathing heavily at the moment and staying strong. And there's a lot of internal conflict over there, even if you're not hearing about it and seeing it. If Mr. Thorne don't come and win his seat, we do not know who will be the leader over there. But we know in Friends of Democracy that when Karina Goodridge is elected, you will know who is the leader over here. And I ain't worried about nothing because I will put in the work and I enjoy working on behalf of Barbados. And that is the difference. A lot of times the issues in the B's and the D's is all about power and money. But over here, we are about people first. We are about the rights of the citizens. We care about the children and the mothers who are single parents who need funds in their pockets. We care about the elderly over here, and that is why we continue to tell you about our policy for pensioners. We care about people. I have been advocating and I've been speaking to about the flyover policy because this is another pressing issue for Barbadians. Many Barbadians are complaining that on the road they have to be getting work late, they have to be stuck in the traffic, and they want a change on that. Because at the end of the day, we want to be productive. We don't want to have a bad work record from going into work very late. And we just want that if there's an emergency, we don't have to be stuck in traffic congestion. So, of course, our policy that we created for you is so that we can push and advocate for you having the flyovers in the country. There are some areas, you know, like in Warrens, that roundabout, full of traffic all the time. I mean, if you get an easy break at that roundabout, sometimes it is shocking. But especially on the wee hours in the morning, that area is just full of congestion and you're stuck in traffic. And we do take consideration that when the ambulances and the police want to pass through, they want to be able to access where they need to go and they need to have an easy flow on the road. We don't want incidents and accidents to those important members of society either. And that is something that has been an issue here in the country. So I want Barbados to help us to advocate for that. You're in the constituency, obviously, of Steffanie Williams. And in her area, some of the issues I've been getting feedback from people. And a lot of the residents are still complaining, as I said, not only about lighting, but they're complaining that they need help with all the bush needed being cut. That is something that they need works on. There are many people that are still complaining about having the same speed bumps so that the young children doesn't run in the road. People are continuously complaining about the housing. So that is another issue that St. James North is actually complaining about. Yeah, so all the lighting, the poor lighting and what's not, that's why you need people who are going to advocate to bring a change in Barbados because those are things that need changing. And I've told you before, Barbados, that, and it was me who said it, don't mind any other party. I started talking about the Auditor General having enforcement powers because I believe that if an Auditor General is going to pick up on any discrepancies, that there needs to be enforcement powers to hold people accountable for that and to do investigations. We can't just have any government officials acting without integrity, because integrity is a key factor in anybody trying to be a minister. You need to have integrity because you need to set the standard and lead the way. Because if people really look at the conduct even for elections, they will really ask themselves who really they are electing. Because you have ministers that are literally fighting for polls, the actual physical polls, pulling down posters or paying people to pull down posters. And it is a ridiculous behavior. It is conduct that is really unethical to be pulling down posters. And matter of fact, even the ones that don't even want to hear the light and power, when they are saying don't even put staples on the poles, I urge each and every one of you to get up from your seat and go and look at the poles, and you will realize that people don't listen to direction. The head leaders don't listen to directives because they are the ones that will allow people to put the staples in the poles and leave it there. And then when linemen have to go out there, and if their clothes hook up in the poles, then what are people going to say? That it is okay? It is not okay. Because they're telling you that for a safe, that they want to be safe in ensuring that when they climb that pole, their lives are not at risk. And that is a serious issue. So we don't just come out here to stand up and talk and look pretty. That is not my style. I come out here to talk business. I come out here to say what I have to say, regardless. And that is what we need to bring back in this country, which is true democracy and true governance. Because true governance would assure you that you don't have to watch your back. You don't have to worry about your government, whether they are telling the truth, because they will start to bring all the truth before your eyes and be transparent. But the moment you have to worry, I don't know why then you would then say you're going to vote for a representative in that way. Because right now in Barbados, they have a two-faced movie going on. Because they're tricking you that you voting all the time for the prime minister when you are not. So when you think that you are giving the prime minister a vote, really and truly you are not looking at the person that she is shielding. So you need to look properly in your constituency and see that you have to be voting for your representative, and the prime minister cannot run in every constituency in Barbados. So that is something that we need to break down to people in the country. You are voting for your representative. You have no idea when the prime minister will step down from her post, and you don't know who will be leading then. Because she said before that she possibly would step down, but she's there now. But I want you to remember that who you are voting for is your representative. The person who should have represented you within the last 7 years, the last 10 years when they were in. How much ever it is. That is who you are voting for. That is who should earn your vote. So Barbados, I want to urge each and every one of you to look at our policies, to recognize that we never came to the country empty-handed. We never came to the country without ideas. We are Friends of Democracy, www.F.O.D. Barbados. And I want you to read all of those 30+ policies and recognize that we are not like the others. We have ideas that can actually help this country to develop. We have ideas that can actually work. So choose Friends of Democracy and choose our candidates when the 11th of February comes. I will continue to be on the ground because I want the other opponents that running against me to continue to keep running behind me, and I will give them a reason to keep running because I will be on the ground until the 11th of February, and I'm ensuring that all candidates will be on the ground. So we will see what happens on the 11th of February because we will continue to advocate on behalf of the people. We now start and we got years to go. We ain't finishing. We are not finishing. So all them that hoping that we scatter, it will not happen. We will continue to work. We will continue to push. And we will continue to advocate. And we will continue to implement the right policies. We will continue to look after the children. And not just to say that we got some $5,000 seed for future adults. Because that is what it is, future adults. But children need money now. Because if you are saying that you're implementing anything for children when they become 18, you're already looking after future adults. But what we need is to ensure that the welfare system in this country is better. And what we need to do is to ensure that our children can eat. And that is why they need to take off the VAT and stop playing the fool with the lives of Barbadians, because children need to eat. And I can tell you that I heard from another youngster today, look, they have to pay the attorneys a lot of money. And we got to work out a system, honestly, for the youngsters, that when they are 16 and are accused of some serious offenses, that the mothers don't have to be having to pay all of that money either. Because right now, that is another reason why there are so many problems. Because when you also owe an attorney bill that is very high, that is why you got a lot of reoffenders. But I will leave that there for now. There are a lot of things that I will leave you to ponder. And I hope that you will ponder on many of the things that I talked about tonight. I know that it is late, but I can tell you, look for me at the next spot meeting. Look for the candidates at the next spot meeting. We have many things to talk about, and we'll be bringing all the tea to the table. So look out for us, Barbados. We love you, and thank you.
Want justice sweep? No, not bitter progress. So let we march, let we chant, let we reconnect.